Welcome to another FPL deadline stream ahead of Game Week 11, and we still have a few hours left for the deadline, but so much to discuss. We've had so many injury problems over the last few weeks, and it's even worse this time round. We don't have that many defenders. I talked about this in all the wildcard videos. James, Trippier, and Cancelo are the ones you really want to have. Well, now it looks like James could be out for the rest of the year. Graham Potter kind of downplayed that, and we're going to talk about what was said in the press conferences today, and not much clarity from the two managers, Marco Silva and Graham Potter, to be honest, in regards to Mitrovic and Reece James. But I'm going to go for all your questions, as always, and I also will be locking in my transfers. I haven't done them yet. As you can see, I have benched Reece James here and brought in Trippier, but the plan is to bring in a defender this week, and I'm mainly looking at two options, maybe a Spurs defender like Perisic or Doherty, and I'm even open to Eric Dyer, and the other alternative is maybe just to go to Dunk or Webster. So it really just depends. All of my transfer plans can be seen in the poll, so be sure to vote and let me know what your thoughts are on that. But let's get straight into your questions and comments, and I'll be looking in my team maybe in an hour or two. Let's wait and see if we get any additional news, but I don't believe that will be the case. Welcome, Patrick. Bench 1, Trippier, Gay, Kilman, and Cancelo. Got Pope, so I don't like double Newcastle defence. It's really tricky because Trippier's only blanked in 2 games this season, but I probably would bench Gay. I think he's the one because he's facing Leicester away, and Trippier at least has the attacking potential, so I would still go for Trippier and bench Gay. I don't see Crystal Palace keeping a clean sheet there. Welcome, Andy. Yes, Reece James has been a bit of a troll. No return since Game Week 4, I believe. Obviously, incredible in the Champions League, and even got a return in Matchday 4 when he got injured. But yeah, very frustrating in FPL. James Tucker-Corella, is it a mistake? I think it is a good player, a good asset when he does start, but I think there's going to be a lot of rotation with Chilwell. That would be my main concern. Welcome, Laga, and thank you for the reminder. So yeah, just to anyone, put your questions forward and your comments. They will be answered. Just try not to spam the chat and they will all be good. Yeah, Chalobah's a good suggestion, but not too sure in the grand scheme of things. Koulibaly will be the most nailed Chelsea defender, so to speak, but I think Chalobah won't start every single week. I know Chelsea have injuries at the back, but I'm not too sure about him. I think there are still better options. Who should I sell, James or Trent? Well, because of what you said, Christian, sorry, not Christian, Lamb Calvin, I think I'd sell Trent. You can always sell James next week or in the weeks to come. It's not a big deal, but I would probably sell Trent if it enables you to also get Trossard in, who's a really good option for the next two. So my personal opinion is sell Trent first and then sell James in the weeks to come. Trent is also out for 2 weeks, I think. Welcome, Sidindra. Thank you very much. I'm doing well. What about you? Thank you for asking. I'm currently 1.2 million rank with all my wildcards left. Yeah, I mean, this week as well, I'm in the same boat. I have so many different options, you could say, but none of them really stand out. I think in terms of the wildcard for you, it could be really well used in Game Week 13, but of course, I don't know your team. Will Broja start? I don't think so. I think Aubameyang does, but I think Broja does get a start over the next 2 or 3 Premier League games with the Champions League also there. So yeah, I don't think he starts this week, though. If not, should I move Broja for Kane? I think I would anyway. Even if Broja starts this week, I think Kane is the far better option. Welcome to everyone. I'm going to try shout out everyone because I'm very far behind, of course. So welcome to Wei saying Perisic thoughts. I think he'll start this game against Everton, and there's even, kind of murmurings he could start as a winger, with Kulusevski out and Richarlison having an injury problem as well. But I'm not sure if he starts against Man United and Newcastle as well. So I'm very concerned about Perisic not really getting the minutes recently, but I think he starts against Everton. Why Doherty suddenly? It's just kind of like a 1-week punt because Doherty will start the next 2 games and Emerson Rowe's obviously suspended. Jed Spence is now kind of entering Conte's good books if you check the Conte press conference today, but you would expect Doherty to start the next 2. But then against Newcastle in Game Week 13, that's where I would expect a bit different. But really, why am I considering Doherty all of a sudden? Because Reece James is injured and I need an alternative. And I am actually not that convinced about a Brighton defender away to Brentford. I would rather go for a Spurs defender for this week and then perhaps move on to Dunk or Webster for Game Week 12 against Nottingham Forest at home. That's pretty much why. Does Chalobah start though? Well, this season I believe he's only started once in the Premier League, and I would expect him to get more starts from now on. Not too sure though if it'll be enough to really make him worthwhile. Doherty or Estupinian? I think I'd go for Doherty, but just bear in mind with Doherty, he is a transfer waiting to happen later on, and I think more so in Game Week 13. Yeah, no, the deadline is now. It's going to be at 6:30 UK time, so you've still got around 2 hours or so. But yeah, the deadline is today. Emerson Royal was super nailed, yes, Wei saying, but of course he's still suspended. He got the straight red against Arsenal. Why not bring in Kilman or Johnny? I've already got Kilman. As you can see, he's in my starting lineup, unless you're referring to someone else in the chat. Fofana and James both out. You tell me who can play right. Play on the right-hand side. Well, it could be Ruben Loftus-Cheek as the right wing-back, of course. But Chelsea don't always play a back three now with Graham Potter. But of course, with Chalobah, I don't think he's necessarily nailed now. Although I think, like I said, he will get more minutes and start maybe half or most of the games. But I wouldn't expect him to start week in, week out, especially also with the Champions League. Yeah, I agree, Wei Sing. Best replacements for James is slim pickings, but I think if you don't have them already, I think a Crystal Palace defender like Gay or Anderson, and I would rather go for Anderson if you can, but it's not a big deal. Kilman is a good option from Wolves, and you've also got Johnny, and then I would look at someone like Dunk or Webster potentially, but you also have the Spurs defenders like Doherty or Eric Dyer. I think any one of those would be the best. It just depends on your team, because if you need someone to start for this week and next week, then I think Dunk is probably the safest bet, or Webster. Tony or Andreas? I'd go for Tony, but I think Andreas could do a decent job this week. Firmino an option finally. I mean, to be honest, he has been an option for the last few weeks. It's just when you have Jesus, Harry Kane, Haaland, Mitrovic and Ivan Toney, you would rather go for those kind of safer options. My big concern with Firmino is rotation with the likes of Nunez and Jota, although maybe not so much now with Diaz out, and you'd expect Jota to start on the left-hand side, but Firmino is definitely an option, and you can't ignore him any longer. And if Mitrovic was ruled out for a long time, I think I would have considered going for Firmino this week. What do you think of James to Castagna and Mitrovic to Firmino? Honestly, I really like the moves. Leicester aren't good defensively, but Castagna has the bonus points and attacking potential, and Firmino's a really good pick as well. The only concern is if Mitrovic returns in Game Week 12, which is possible, of course, but I really like those transfers, I can't lie to you. Greetings from Florida, Dylan, and FPL fans. Thank you, John. It's always a pleasure. It's great to see you once again. Captain Haaland or risk it for Kane, currently 500k rank. Honestly, who do you think is going to score more points? And I personally believe Haaland will, but I think Kane is also a really good captaincy option this week, so it ultimately just depends on who you think scores the most points. Don't just captain someone for being different, for the sake of being different, but I think either of them are really good choices. Both are my top three this week, and Kane has done really well against Everton in the past, but I personally would go for Haaland. Does Zuma start? I believe so. I mean, he's probably the most nailed West Ham defender, to be honest. Zaha or Bowen for only this game week? For this game week only, I think I'd go for Zaha against Leicester, but they're both good options. And one other thing about Bowen, which I haven't mentioned, and I was going to talk about him in the transfer tips, but things obviously changed. I think over 80% of his goals have come at home, and obviously the next two games are away for West Ham. Swap James to Cucurella. Not a bad shout, but my main concern with Cucurella is rotation with Chilwell. That's always going to be an issue. So I'd rather go for a more nailed-on defender, and you need them in Game Week 12, especially if you have 3 or more Arsenal plus Man City players. Start 2, Tony, Andreas and Gross. I would go for Tony and Gross, but Andreas is also a decent choice this week. Do you think Son outscores De Bruyne by 4 points? So basically, should I take a hit for Heung-min Son? I personally wouldn't. Although De Bruyne hasn't got too many attacking returns at Anfield, but I don't think I'd take a hit for that. And I don't think Son necessarily scores more than 4 points more than Kevin De Bruyne. Thoughts on Kilman Johnny? I've got Kilman myself, and I think he's a decent option. And Wolves have one of the best defences outside the top 6, but of course they have no new manager, so we just don't know what kind of Wolves side we're going to get. So all is up in the air still, but I would probably go for Kilman. He's also good for the bonus points when Wolves keep a clean sheet. Kane or Son? At the moment, I still prefer Kane, to be honest. And also structurally, you can go for more medium-priced midfielders, which at the moment seems like the way to go. But it's really hard to say that now when Son just scored a brace in the Champions League and won Man of the Match. The away kits Nicholas is literally just a Chrome extension, so if you type it in on Google, you will find it. Would you recommend Andreas to Rodrigo? I like Rodrigo, but I don't think I'd do that this week. I wouldn't mind playing Andreas, and it also gives you more flexibility in the future to make other moves, which you might need to do. What about Son for captain? It's not a bad shout, and just like with Kane, he's kind of up there. But I personally would go for Haaland. I think he's going to score more points, so that's the way I'm thinking. Hola Diego, desde Honduras. Saludos a vos también. Gracias por ver este video. Jesus captain. I mean, that's a shout. He's facing Leeds, and he should be fine, recovering from the concussion and, the kind of injury sustained against Liverpool. I don't think I'd captain him, but he is a really good shout. Probably the best outside the typical Kane and Haaland options that we have. Is Mitrovic out? It's not confirmed that he's out. I'm going to talk about this very soon. But kind of, if you read between the lines, it looks like he's going to possibly not start this week and be back for Game Week 12. But then again, we said this last week, so it's not really ideal. Yeah, Dawson's got a bullet header in him. Yes, he does. That's a good point. To be fair, a lot of West Ham players do, like Soucek. Is James out till next year? It's not officially confirmed, but multiple sources, including Football London and the Daily Mail, have reported that he's going to miss the World Cup. So really, he's going to be back by the very end of this year, or he'll be back next year, and we just don't know when. But Graham Potter downplayed this. I'm going to try to talk about this very soon, actually, because obviously we have a lot of stuff to cover. So if we go through the news that was covered today, so kind of early on, just before the press conferences came around, we got news from Football London and the Daily Mail that Reece James's injury is worse than feared after scans yesterday, and there's the possibility he will miss the World Cup. So obviously it's a possibility. We don't know yet. And kind of if you add together all the comments made by Potter and obviously all these sources, maybe one of the first scans that James did, was quite promising. It doesn't seem like it's going to be a long-term injury. But then the recent one was much more severe. So Graham Potter did say this, that he's going to see a specialist and then we'll find out what the case is going to be. So as you can see here, all of the quotes from Graham Potter in his press conference. Reece is due to see a specialist over the weekend. So until we get that information, there is not too much more I can add. So I think really they're just going to wait and see for more information, and then finally they will be able to determine the full extent of the injury. So I don't think it's actually completely clarified yet, but there is a chance, of course, that he's going to be out for a long period of time. So that's the injury update on Reece James. I wouldn't expect him to be back for the next 2 or 3 game weeks at the very least, and as a result, I think he is a sell. The problem is, who do we go to? And that's obviously what we're going to cover in this stream as well, and I'm going to be doing the same thing as well. So the other things to also talk about is Marco Silva talking about Mitrovic, and he said he is getting better, but it's just not really enough confidence and conviction of Mitrovic starting this weekend, and I don't think that will be the case. I think he will be benched potentially, or not be in the squad and then come in hopefully in Game Week 12. It is a bit of a shame because Mitrovic has now already missed potentially 2 of the really good fixtures coming up for Fulham, but as you can see, he says he did the warm-up and the session today was more strategy. Today was the first day he was involved with the team. After 2 weeks without, we're checking and assessing him. Assess still soon and we'll check later. So not really too promising on that front, but I don't think his injury will be long-term, which Reece James, of course, that injury could be. And anything else that we have to cover? Well, we're going to be talking about the predicted lineups from Paul O'Keefe and also anything else we see on Twitter later on. And a few other things to show you is the fixture ticker. Wolves, Spurs, Fulham, Bournemouth and Liverpool are all top, and that's why some of these Wolves assets like Kilman are going to be heavily discussed today. Also the Spurs defenders, although that Game Week 12 fixture against Man United does put a lot of us off, and some people are even considering Fulham defenders, which to be honest I can't bring myself to do that, but the next 2 in particular are fantastic games from a defensive point of view. But do I see Fulham keeping clean sheets? Probably not, but you never know. And Fulham will keep a clean sheet at some point in the season. Of course, the kind of typical teams at the bottom there, City and Arsenal, because of the blank in Game Week 12, playing a really big part. And then in terms of predicted points, for those of you asking me about should I captain Kane or Son this week, well, they are predicted to score more points than Haaland according to Fantasy Football Hub. And you've also got some Arsenal players there like Saka and Jesus in the top 5. So kind of a mixed predicted points lineup this week, and it's going to be quite open, but not a high ceiling suggested by the algorithm. So you even got the Cordova Reed right up there in the top 10 or so. That's just absolutely ridiculous. But let me now go to my team, and I'll be showing you my transfer plans very shortly, but you can see them, of course, in the poll. So if you want to let me know your thoughts, then be sure to do so. And let's try to get this stream to over 300 likes. And we're also very close to 16,000 subscribers. I think around 200 or so away. So it would be great to reach it today, and I think we can. So thank you very much. Hopefully I haven't missed a super chat there. Okay, I just got it here. Thank you, Amir. I very much appreciate it. Yo, what do you think of the plan? 6.2 million in the bank. So Mitrovic to Kane this game week. Take a -4 in game week 12. James to another defender and Tony to a Liverpool attacker. Honestly, Amir, I really like it. And as much as I think Mitrovic is a great value option, we keep getting this news every single week. We just don't know when he's going to come back. The positive news about Mitrovic is that he has been training. So I would expect him to be back by Game Week 12 or 13, but it's just a long time to wait, and we need as many players as possible in Game Week 12. And Harry Kane, by the way, is a fantastic option this week. And even against United, he can do a good job. And If you were to go for a Liverpool attacker, my suggestion would be Firmino. He's been banging form, and we do have maybe a preconception about him. Typically, he's a bit of an FPL troll, but I think this season he is the best Liverpool attacker, and I would go for him. In terms of James to another defender, let me know which players you're kind of looking towards, because I don't know which players you have already, but that will also be very interesting. But I would go for Firmino, and to be honest, I would also go for Mitrovic out to Harry Kane. That would be my suggestion to you as well. I think those are great transfer plans. Just let me know your opinions and your kind of dilemmas about the defenders you're going to bring in for Reece James. So thank you very much for the super chat. I'll also now try to catch up. Koulibaly or Doherty for 2 weeks? I'd go for Doherty. Higher ceiling, and I would expect him to start both games. And against Everton alone, I think he could all really make up for the transfer. Thank you, John. Hopefully it goes out well for you. And look, Fulham could keep a clean sheet over the next two, but they're just a team I don't trust defensively. Welcome, Harry. Hey, Dylan, what do you think about Salah and Archer to Eze and Kane for -4? I mean, to be honest, I talked about, not going for any Crystal Palace attacker rather than Zaha, but Eze now only has a few points fewer than Wilfred Zaha, so, it's not a bad shout. I really like Kane, to be honest. It's a fantastic choice. Obviously, Salah now scoring a hat-trick against Rangers in 6 minutes. That's going to make people maybe reconsider and maybe just hold on to him. He's finally shown a bit of form, which I was kind of calling out for in the transfer tips video. Would I do it for a -4? Yes, I would, but I think Salah could definitely make it pay, of course. I mean, this has always been the kind of talk about every single game week, but I think it is worth a -4 hit, Harry, ultimately. But of course, it can always backfire. Kane or Haaland captain? I would go for Haaland, but I'll be honest, Kane is right up there. There's not much to split them in terms of the captaincy this week. Would love Son this week. I was actually thinking of selling him, but after the Frankfurt game, I think now, you know what, and also the injury news, I'm a bit more open to keeping him now. It's kind of weird how things change so quickly. What do you think of Romero? He should be nailed on, and I think he's a good option. The thing with him, though, is that there's a lack of attacking threat. He's a bit of a boring pick, and if you can, I'd rather stretch out to Dyer, who is the most nailed-on Spurs defender overall, but he is a decent choice. Romero or Kilman? I'd go for Kilman, personally. Should I use the free hit in Game Week 12? I'm not sure what your team situation is, but I try not to use it because a free hit is best used in a blank or double game week later on in the season. So I would try not to do it if you can. Salah and Tony to Kane and Zaha, what's your opinion? I mean, I think it is worth it. It's really close this week, but I would go for Kane and Zaha. Thank you, Loco, by the way, for liking the video. Can you do a comparison of Nunez, Jota, Firmino? Would love your thoughts on the Liverpool forwards. I could maybe bring up the stats very soon, by the way, and do that text, so remind me to do that. But I personally think Firmino is the best of the lot. In terms of minutes played, or kind of all these attacking metrics per 90, Nunez would be the best, but he has a really small sample size. But in terms of goal scoring, at the moment, you would favour the likes of Firmino, Nunez over Jota, which is quite surprising, to be honest, considering last season. But I will do a stats comparison. I don't know if I can get all three of them up at the same time, but I could get maybe two of them and kind of rotate between the three. Do you think Zuma will play? Yes, I do. Obviously, Tech and other West Ham fans can maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't see any reason why he wouldn't. The Away Kit Zodiac is a Chrome extension. So if you type in FPL Away Kit's Chrome extension, you should see it. I think it's created by Trout. I think it's the name of the creator. Hey Dylan, thoughts on Trossard? He was going to be one of my transfers in this week. I think he's a fantastic option for the next two. Then the games or the fixtures afterwards really turn a turn for the worse. Or yeah, take a turn for the worse. But I think he's a great option. KDB to Son. I actually wouldn't do it this week. I mean, for free, you have nothing to lose, really. And if it goes against you, then so be it. Son should still make up the points overall. But yeah, definitely not for a -4. I definitely wouldn't do it for a -4. For free, maybe. Especially if you want to captain Son. James replacements. For me, like I said earlier, it would be a Spurs defender, and I'd mainly look at Doherty for a kind of 2-game-week punt. When you're looking at Wolves, I would go for Kilman, Anderson from Crystal Palace. You could even consider Castagna, and the other one would be Dunk or Webster. In my own situation, I'm mainly looking at Doherty or Lewis Dunk. That is kind of my own personal opinion. Good to see you, Alejandro. Semedo or Kilman? I'd go for Kilman. James to Chilwell seems a no-brainer. I disagree because he can rotate a lot with Cucurella. That really puts me off. And Chilwell is also really injury-prone. Obviously, if Chilwell was nailed on, he was the only left wing back at the club, then definitely I would bite your hand off for Chilwell. But right now, I'm not sure if that will be the case. Yeah, Alejandro, I think Ben White should be in the World Cup squad, but I just don't see it at the moment. Is Cucurella a good replacement for James? I think he is a good replacement, but you have to stomach the benchings. They will happen. Yeah, thank you, Tech. I wasn't sure if there was kind of an update or something of him being injured because I saw nothing in the last few days. Between Anderson and Trippier, will you bring in for the next two? I'd still go for Trippier, to be honest. He's got the attacking potential. He's only blanked for 2 games this season. I mean, he's been incredible. I think it's still Trippier for me. Perisic or Dyer? I mean, Dyer's way more nailed, and I think Perisic will start the next game, but maybe not the 2 afterwards. But as an FPL option, I'd still go for Perisic. Thoughts on Mount? He has improved under Graham Potter, but still not enough from an FPL perspective for me to really go for him. For Game Week 12, we'll use the free hit or what? No. I definitely don't want to do that. I've only got 3 Man City plus Arsenal players, so there's no need for me to do that. Punted on Billing last week, and he hit 5.2 million for a man with 3 goals and 4 and good fixtures. Yeah, he's been great, to be honest. And around his price and below, you've got Almiron and Xhaka. Those are probably the top 3 overall. I would probably say Xhaka's the best right now, then Almiron, then Billing. But to be honest, you could put them in any order. They've all been great. Daka or Mitrovic? Assuming he's fit, it would be Mitrovic, but of course, he's got that big cloud around him. So what's the Mitrovic and James news? We literally just covered it. So with Reece James, he could be out for the rest of the year, but like Graham Potter said, he has to see a specialist first. And as for Mitrovic, he has been training, but there is still a doubt about him starting this weekend. 11 players is going to be tricky next week, especially when Maddison gets his 5th yellow. Oh my, that's possible as well. That's something I've actually forgot to mention. So Maddison's actually on 4 yellow cards, like Harry said. 1 more yellow and he's suspended. So for anyone looking to bring in Maddison, be very careful. I'd probably look elsewhere at the moment. Dylan, start Edison or Ward? I'd still go for Edison, to be honest. News on James, yeah, we just covered that. Genius, hopefully you got it. If you haven't, then be sure to let me know. Dunk or Kilman to rotate well with Gay? I think Kilman out of the 2. I have 1 free transfer for Fafana and James in my squad. Gay to now. I would rather get rid of James, I think, because he's more expensive. You've got more options to choose from. Doherty or Perisic? I'd go for Doherty. I think he's more nailed for the next 2, but beyond that, not so much. Emerson's still first choice, of course. Start Almiron or Kilman? I'd go for Kilman, but Almiron is a good option this year. Perisic or Kilman? I would go for Kilman still. Start Andreas or McAllister? I'd go for McAllister. He's also on the penalties, which helps a lot. Sterling worth owning? He's not a bad option, but he's far too much money in my opinion. And I talked about selling him, I think, in the recent video, or skipping him at least in the transfer tips. I wouldn't go for him if possible. I think there's so many better options in the midfield. Should I go Castagna or Doherty or Creswell for James? Eddie, for me personally, I would consider Doherty. That is my favourite of the lot. But Castagna, he's got good fixtures for the next 3. Doherty should start the next 2, but faces United in Game Week 12. There's pros and cons between all of them, but I would go for Doherty. Mitrovic or Tony? I mean, once again, Mitrovic is a doubt for this week, but he would be my preference if he's fit. Trent and James to Duncan Trippier. Looks fantastic to me. I think Trippier is the best defender in the game, bar Cancelo. Thank you, Lager. I appreciate it. Best replacement for Mitrovic. For a like-for-like, replacement, I would say Tony and also Callum Wilson. But if you can stretch to it, I'd say Firmino. He's probably my favourite option at the moment. I have Gundogan. Dylan. Should I replace him with Trossard? Gundogan can score against Liverpool. He has done it in the past, but I'd go to Trossard, personally. Start Almiron or Kilman? I answered that, mate. Thoughts on KDB to Trossard? I really like Trossard, but I think I'd keep KDB for 1 more week, and you can do in Game Week 12 instead. But to be honest, there's nothing wrong with going for Trossard now. Do you think Soufal and Nico Williams are nailed on? Soufal, yes. Nico Williams, no, with the new signings for Nottingham Forest. Nunez or Kane? Harry Kane. James, KDB and Mitrovic to Doherty, Kane and Saka worth a -4. I like the players you're bringing in a lot. Just bear in mind with Saka, if you've already got 3 or more Arsenal plus Man City players, you are maybe causing some problems for Game Week 12. But I have to say, without thinking about that too much, it's a really good set of transfers. I'd do it. Gay or Kilman? I'd go for Kilman at the moment, to be honest. But you have to say Crystal Palace have the better fixtures. Will Zuma play? Yes, he will. Dyer or Kilman? I'd go for Kilman, I think. I mean, I'm giving Kilman a lot of love, it seems, and we just don't know what kind of Wolves side we're going to get with the new manager, and we don't know who the new manager is going to be yet. Dylan and Chatters, does Maximan returning hurt or help Almiron? That is a good question. I think it does help, but I do see why some people would argue the opposite in terms of kind of sharing the load and the goals and the assists and the goal contributions. Eze worth looking at, yes, but I still would go for Zaha if you can. And yeah, I definitely need a war break already. I mean, we're only like 30 minutes in or something. Sufal nailed? No, he definitely isn't. You've got Carrere and you've also got Ben Johnson when he returns from injury. Jesus or Martinelli as captain, what do you think? Really good question. I think I'd favour Martinelli, to be honest. Jesus is more likely to get yellow cards, and Martinelli, obviously, as a midfielder, has the bigger advantage. He done really well against Leeds last season. I'd go for Martinelli. Is James out? I mean, I'd be very shocked if he started this week. I think he'll be out for this week, and he could potentially be out for the rest of the year, but I wouldn't bank on that yet in terms of him being out long term. Let's wait and see first. We should get more information over the weekend. Koulibaly or Thiago Silva? Probably Koulibaly, but not a big fan of either. Webster or Kilman? I think I'd go for Webster out of those two. It's really close though. Sufa or Gay? I'd go for Gay. Should I keep Salah or sell him? It depends who you're looking to sell him to. That is the key. If you sell him to Trossard and then you bring in Harry Kane up front, I would do that, for example. Bailey to Trossard for a -4. Bailey is actually in contention to start this weekend, but I would do it actually for a -4. Trippier or Cancelo to play this game week? That's a good question. I'd go for Cancelo, especially if we already have Pope. James replacement for 5 million. I'm not sure which players you have or don't have, so it's kind of hard for me to answer, but Doherty's a really good choice. You've also got the likes of Dunk or Webster. Son or Haaland as captain? I'm going for Haaland, as you can see, so that's kind of my 2 cents on the matter. Start Trippier, Justin or Anderson. Got Sarr as goalkeeper. I'd go for Trippier, honestly. I definitely wouldn't go for Anderson, so it's between Justin and Trippier, and I'd go for Trippier for the attacking potential. Thoughts on Sufa out for Kilman? Looks good to me, Rafe. Sufa isn't nailed on. Yeah, Koulibaly, look, he is a decent choice. In terms of Chelsea defenders, he'd probably be my favourite. It sounds weird, but the reason why is because he's probably the most nailed in that team. I would love to say Chilwell or Cucurella, but they're going to be battling out between each other. So he is a decent choice, but I'm not a big fan of the fixtures from a defensive point of view for Chelsea, and I think there are better, cheaper options who are also potentially more nailed on with better attacking threat than Koulibaly. Trippier or Cancelo? I answered that, Aaron. I would go for Cancelo. Good captain this week. I mean, apart from Haaland, I'd say Kane or Son is a really good choice. And another one, of course, would be Martinelli or Jesus, even Saka as well. Thank you, Vishav. I appreciate it. Jesus on 4 yellows as well. Yes, exactly. He is. But obviously that doesn't impact, in terms of captaincy for this week, it doesn't really impact it too much. But that is a good point overall. Firmino or Nunez? Firmino, for sure. Thoughts on Zuma? If you were to go for a West Ham defender, he would be it, in my opinion. Jesus to Mitrovic or Skamaka? I mean, I'd love to say Mitrovic, but honestly, just keep Jesus for now. He's facing Leeds. I would back him to outscore Skamaka and Mitrovic and then get rid of Jesus in Game Week 12. If you were to do it this week still, I'd go for Skamaka because Mitrovic could be out this week. Opinions on Cher? Obviously, he's kind of overshadowed by the likes of Pope and Trippier, but he is a good option. Thank you, Soldier Boy. I appreciate it. Dylan, do you think Perisic starts, I'm guessing, is the question. I think he starts against Everton. My concern is starting against United and also against Newcastle. Thank you, R9. I appreciate it. Cody or Dunk? I'd go for Dunk. Sell James now or hold out until more users out? I'd love to say hold out, and that was my kind of thoughts going into this week, especially after the first scan, but it seems a lot more negative right now. I'd probably sell, but if you aren't really too sure about the alternatives and you have a decent 11 this week, then you could hold. I'm in a position where I want to use my transfers because I have 2, and I also want to make moves in Game Week 13, like bringing in Foden, Saka, Ben White, etc. So I want to make a move right now. So my situation is different, but I would. It just depends basically on your team situation. Comment on Arsenal defense, thanks. I like them after Game Week 12, so from 13 to 16, 17. And I would go for Ben White. He's cheap. He's starting every single game as the right back. And he's got a good link up with Saka. He's making overlapping runs. There's a lot to like with him. How about Mount and Aubameyang? Aubameyang would be my favourite. He's showing some serious goal-scoring form. Mason Mount is playing really well overall under Graham Potter. But I haven't seen enough from him FPL-wise to suggest he is a good option, especially over Maddison, Zaha, Trossard, Heung-min Son, Kevin De Bruyne, and so many others like Bukayo Saka. Transfer in a Crystal Palace or Brighton defender. if you're looking long-term, it has to be the Crystal Palace defender because of the fixtures. However, if it's just for 2 game weeks, I would actually go for the Brighton defender. So it just depends on what you're looking for. Yeah, definitely Manchester United. If you have Chilwell, I would start him. And it will be interesting to see who else in the chat has him. Hi, Dylan. Webster or Dunk? Actually, great segue. Thank you very much for that. You opened the opportunity for me there. So if we check Fantasy Football Hub as well, and we check these stats between Dunk and Webster, this season, and we only have a very small sample size, Webster is the clear winner. So none of them have attacking contributions, but he's got almost double the amount of shots. He's got 1 shot on target compared to Dunk's 0. He's also got 2 more shots inside the box. His XG is significantly higher at 0.51. The expected assist, the same thing. One big chance created, and Lewis Dunk, surprisingly, hasn't really been anywhere near. I think he kind of came close against Spurs, but still not quite close enough. So Webster, based on this season's data, is the better pick. And he's also really good for baseline bonus. He was right up there against Spurs, despite losing the game 1-0. But really small sample size. It's very difficult to judge. Historically, Dunk would be my favourite. He's more reliable. But based on this season, you could be more open-minded and go for Webster. Let me know in the chat right now, just a one-word answer, Dunk or Webster for you. And I can even put a poll out as well, by the way, very, very soon. How do you have 2 free transfers? I just basically didn't use any last week. That is it. I was close to making a late transfer from Son to Foden, and that would have changed my outlook going into this week. Does Emerson start? No, he's if you're talking about the West Ham Emerson, he did start the other day, but he will only start in a back 3 for West Ham with Cresswell tucking as the left centre back. In terms of the Spurs Emerson, he is suspended for the next 2. Firmino, Jesus or Tony? Right now, I have to say Firmino, and you probably are going to be shocked by that. Dyer or Dunk? I think Dunk for the next 2. Webster or Romero? I'd go for Webster. KDB to Bone for a -4. I would not get rid of KDB for a -4, not even for Son. Why not Veltman? He's also another good shout, of course, but I think Webster and Dunk would be my favourites. I think Veltman has the most points, though. Kane captain, not a bad shout, mate. Honestly, if you back him to score more points than Haaland, go for it. Follow your gut instincts and trust it, because I think he's right up there. In terms of best captaincy options, he's probably my second favourite this week. Yeah, Veltman, I'm seeing a lot of love for Veltman. That's fair enough. Keep Mitrovic. That's what I'm planning to do at the moment, because I think he will be available fairly soon. It's just a shame that he's missing another good fixture, potentially. Kilman or Johnny? I'd go for Kilman. Salah or KDB? Has to be KDB. The only problem is Game Week 12, of course. Start Gay or Webster? This week, I would go for Webster. What happened to Zuma? Illness? I'm not sure, but whenever he's available, he starts. I'm not sure what the deal is with Zuma. I'm seeing a lot of questions about him at the moment. Thoughts on Doherty? I think he's a really good 2-week game week punt, and that's what I'm looking to do with my team. However, the poll has changed, and now everyone is saying go for Dunk and Webster. Not everyone. It's a bit unfair, but almost half of you, which is quite surprising. And thank you, by the way, to the over 700 people who have actually voted. And by the way, we have over 600 people watching. Thank you very much. If you haven't already, you know what to do. And let's just bring this up here. Subscribe to the channel and also smash the like button. We're trying to get this video to over 300 likes, and we're also very close to 16,000. So if you're new around here and enjoy the content, consider subscribing and helping us reach that milestone today. We're around 200 subscribers away from 16,000. Obviously, I haven't checked just now, but we can do that now. So yeah, we're around 230 away. So let's keep on pushing. Thank you very much. And let's get this stream to over 300 likes. And we're now going to go back to my team and also go back to your questions. So this is how I'm looking like at the moment. Just like a lot of you, I have Reece James and Mitrovic as severe doubts, especially Reece James, who could be out for the rest of the year. Andreas or Gross? This week has to be Gross for me. Thank you, Gutonga. I appreciate it. Keep or sell Mendy? Is this the Chelsea goalkeeper? Then I'd sell. To be honest, any Mendy that I can think of is probably a sell at the moment. James to Kilman or Webster Dunk, please? I actually would go for Kilman. I think in terms of the next 2 game weeks, he has the best kind of combination of fixtures. And I think he's the most likely to get at least 1 clean sheet. But that might be an unpopular opinion. Should I bench Mitrovic and play Perisic? I mean, yes, I think I would. I think Perisic starts. And of course, we're going to get the lineups very soon. Castagna or Webster? I'd go for Webster. I just don't trust Leicester defensively. Is James Justin a good option for Game Week 11? He's a decent one. He's got a bit of attacking potential, but I don't see a clean sheet there for Leicester. Although they actually better defense at home from something I've seen earlier today. When City blanks in Game Week 12, how would you line up your team? How would I line up my team? We can actually go through that now using FPL.team. So if you haven't already, be sure to check out this website. Very, very good in terms of FPL planning. So if we check Game Week 12 here, and by the way, you can ignore Dunk. That was just, I was going to show you some transfer plans that I could do. But I would start Pope in goal, Anderson, Kilman, Trippier, and then pretty much anyone I bring in for Reece James, because I need to do that ahead of Game Week 12. Maddison, Zaha, Son, Andreas Pereira, Mitrovic, and Tony. In terms of captaincy and stuff, it has changed now. I would probably look towards one of my midfielders. So Son or Maddison would be my captain. And vice captain would be a bit tricky, actually. It doesn't really matter, it'll be one of the other two, basically. And then going into Game Week 13, I would look to get in the likes of Ben White in defence, maybe for Lewis Dunk if I decide to go for him. And I would also go for Phil Foden in the midfield for someone like Wilfred Zaha, or maybe even Heung-min Son. It all depends, really. I've got a lot of different options, but like I said earlier, none of them really stand out, to be honest. So, yeah. I just realised someone said Cat got his tongue talking about Zuma. That's a good one. Perisic or Kilman? I'd go for Kilman. I think he's a bit safer. Of course, in terms of this week, I think Perisic is the better option. Who should I start, Trippier or Justin? I'd go for Trippier. Yeah, Zuma's cat took revenge and blinded him. Yeah. Best keeper till Game Week 16. Try not to spam the chat, Vishav. I would go for... In terms of fixtures, this guy, but I'm not a big fan of him. I actually think Jose Sa would be my pick. It'd probably be Jose Sa. Going for Kane captain. Honestly, I like it. I think he's probably my second favourite this week. And if it wasn't for Haaland, he'd be my captain for sure. And I'd bring him in. Diaz out for, say, Maximin or Trossard. I'd go for Trossard, to be honest. Stuck with Aubameyang. Should I be worried? I think Aubameyang will start. Of course, it will be a concern. Graham Potter likes to rotate, it looks like, at Chelsea. Trossard will be my pick. Willock or Barnes? I'd go for Barnes. Son or Haaland captain? I'd go for Haaland, but both are fine. Is Kepa a good option? Yeah, to be honest, at the moment he is. Edouard Mendy is, of course, available, but he's not getting a look in at the moment. Should I sell Son and Firmino for Salah and Mitrovic next match day? Honestly, Son to Salah maybe, but Firmino out? No, I see no reason why to sell him at the moment. He's in incredible form. No, there's no double game week, Ahmed. You will see it, of course, with your players. They will literally have 2 fixtures in a game week. That will happen later on in the season. Right now, it won't. We basically just have midweek games, and it will be game week 12, a separate game week to this one. Maddison to Trossard. I wouldn't do it this week. I like Trossard a lot, but I wouldn't necessarily do that. I think there's value in starting just 10 players in game week 12. Yeah, I think so, John. That is a good shout. I mean, you look at the alternatives and they're just not that great. It's just a bit tricky for those of us like myself who've already got 3 Arsenal plus Man City players, and it just doesn't really make sense to go for another one right now. But for those of you with 4, I think that's a fair comment to make. Firmino or Jesus? I mean, for this week it's Jesus, but overall, I prefer Firmino at the moment. Reece James replacement, I'd probably go for a Wolves defender or Brighton defender. If you're looking a bit more long-term, obviously you can also point towards the Crystal Palace ones. I just don't know who you have or don't have already. Webster or Dunk? I still prefer Dunk, I think, but it's really close. Anderson or Koulibaly? I'd go for Anderson. Start Webster or Gay? I would go for Webster this week. Cucurella, Doherty, Webster or Kilman? Good question. I would go for Doherty if you're looking for someone really short-term. If you're looking for someone a bit more longer-term, it has to be Kilman for me. Dunk or Doherty? I think Dunk is the safer pick. I'd go for him. What I'm looking to do potentially is get Doherty in this week and then next week get Dunk and kind of do a switcheroo with the defence and then get Ben White ultimately. Dylan, Liverpool defender instead of Trent? Kind of a tough one. I mean, Robertson is fit and available. You'd expect him to be starting very, very soon. But really, there's no one that stands out to me. Matip is out as well. Joe Gomez could be one, for the short term, but I just don't know if it's worth it. Will you transfer free hit in Game Week 12? I'd be using transfers. I would not be using the free hit. Thoughts on Aubameyang? He has impressed me recently, and he is the Chelsea attacker of choice at the moment. But having said that, you've got Firmino 8 million. You've got Jesus, of course, who does blank in 12. You've got Haaland, Kane, and a few others like Mitrovic if he's fit, and Tony. But I have to say, Aubameyang is slowly creeping up the list for forwards, but I do prefer Firmino. Anderson or Koulibaly? I would go for Anderson, like I said, mate. Try not to spam the chat. How do we know that Doherty will play? Because Emerson Royal is suspended, Safir. And look, there is the possibility of Perisic playing right wing back and Sessegnon left wing back, but I think that won't be the case against Everton. Best Brighton defender? I personally think it's Dunk, but you've got Veltman and Webster as well. And Estupinian's not bad either. Eze best midfielder around 5.5 million. He's up there, but I would also raise you Xhaka, Almiron, and Billing, who are pretty good as well. But yeah, he's a good option. James to Koulibaly, not a bad shout, Aaron, and I'm seeing a lot of people say that in the chat, and I do understand that point of view. I am not going to go there myself, but it's not a bad shout. Rodrigo or Trossard? For me, it has to be Trossard. Sell Salah or James? I would rather sell James because he's likely to be out long term, but of course we don't know that for sure yet. 4.6 million defense, owned Williams and Gay. In that case, I would go for either Kilman or Dunk, Wei Seng. Dylan, what do you think of Mitrovic, KDB to Zaha, Kane? Just sub off James for now. I do like it. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a big fan of selling KDB this week, but if it's for free, especially, and you're getting Kane, I don't see any issues with it, to be honest. It's a good set of transfers. How about Anthony? As I talked about in my transfer tips, the reason why he's a skip for me at the moment is because you've got so many alternatives for a similar price, and that's why I would skip him for now, but maybe look to bring him in around Gameweek 14. 2 free transfers, James to who? I don't know who you have. Like, it's kind of a recurring theme for most people, but a Crystal Palace defender looks good for you, maybe Kilman, so it just depends who you have, Jeff, already. Is Tony still a long-term hold? I was considering going up to Harry Kane and then maybe doing Son to Trossard earlier, but yes, Tony is still worth considering as a long-term hold, but he hasn't been that impressive recently. Trent 2, once again, I don't know which players you have or don't have, so be sure to let me know and I can give you a better answer, but once again, I'd refer you to a Spurs defender maybe for a short-term punt, Lewis Dunk, Kilman, Anderson. Thank you, Singh, I appreciate it. Who should I go for Trent with a hit? Yeah, I'm not a big fan of taking hits, especially for defenders, but once again, I don't know who you have already. Buy who to replace James? I mean, it's going to be the big question. So basically, so yeah, Jeff, for example, says, sorry, I got Gay, Trippier, Cancelo, Williams, James, what to do? So you've already got a Crystal Palace defender. I wouldn't double up. I would go for either Kilman or Dunk, Jeff. And you also wouldn't go wrong with a Spurs defender like Dyer, Doherty, or Perisic, but I would probably go for Kilman or Dunk. And that can also apply to the others asking that question. Wood or Pope? I would probably go for Pope this week, and that's what I'm doing at the moment. Start Trippier. I have no problems with actually starting Trippier. The big issue is if you have double Newcastle defence with Pope in goal. That's where it'll be a bit concerning. But to be honest, I still think Trippier can get a return this week. De Bruyne to Son, what do you think? For free, it's a good transfer, but I would still be a bit cautious. I would not do it for a hit. How do you rate current Aubameyang compared to his Arsenal time? Well, he's looking better than he did in his last year and a half at Arsenal. But in terms of, his first year or two at Arsenal, I still think he's a kind of a level or two below that. But he has been looking sharp recently. It's kind of early days. It's a small sample size still. Wolves' defence is bad. I mean, they have been in recent games, I do agree. But overall, they are still one of the better defences in the league, in my opinion. But we just don't know what we're going to get in terms of, the new manager. Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate it. Why not Johnny over Kilman? Look, he's a good shout as well, and I think he's a little bit cheaper. I just think Kilman's a bit better for the bonus points and he's a bit more nailed. Is Jesus a long-term hold? It really depends. If you've got 3 or, let's say 4 or more Arsenal plus Man City players, then I would get rid of Jesus. And also, a reason why I'm a bit more open to selling Jesus compared to Martinelli and the others is that in terms of value built, it's not going to be as high as the other options I just discussed. But he is a good option long term, but you have a lot of alternatives, especially when everyone's fit. Would you consider Wolves' assets if Nuno is back? Yes, but mainly in the defence, not in the attacking positions. Kind of, recurring theme over the last few years as well. Mitrovic or Solanke out for Kane? This is the thing. I mean, I would love to keep Mitrovic. I think he's a better option than Solanke, but it's really difficult for me to say when he is an injured out. But I'd probably say Solanke out, but it's kind of a really, really difficult thing to say when Mitrovic could be out for this week and next week. Dylan, can you break down Chilwell's value for us? Well, when Chilwell starts, he is one of the best value defenders and players in the entire game, John. I think that, everyone could be in agreement of that. The big problem is Cucurella. I think they will rotate, not necessarily 50-50. Chilwell could start more games, but it will be enough rotation, I think, to be a big concern at his price. And when you need as many players as possible in Game Week 12, I think it really lowers the appeal of Chilwell at the moment. So that's something I'd maybe consider for Game Week 13 onwards. Not at the moment when we need as many players as possible for Game Week 12. Yeah, once again, Ardrish, I'm not sure if Cucurella will start enough games for me to really consider him. Hi Dylan, best replacement for Sufal for bench purposes. I would consider someone like Johnny, Kilman, Gay, Anderson. It just depends on which defenders you have already. I wouldn't double up on any of those defenses. Start one between Trossard and Tony. I'd go for Trossard. Is it worth using the free hit next game week or not? If you have 6 Arsenal plus Man City players, as well as Reece James and other injury doubts like Mitrovic, yes, potentially. But otherwise, I would highly recommend sticking with the free hit for a blank or double game week later in the season. Why Doherty, not Perisic? Because I have more confidence in Doherty starting the next 2. He's also cheaper. And I'm looking to maybe bounce between one defender to another in the next few weeks. I think Perisic is a good option, but I'm a bit concerned about his minutes, more so than with Doherty at the moment. Yes, we're saying I'm going for a Haaland captaincy, unfortunately. I'd love to go for Son, but I haven't seen enough from him this season. I know he did really well in midweek, but that's not enough for me. Who should I place James with? Have 2 free transfers. I would obviously, once again, go towards a Crystal Palace defender. If you've already got that, then fair enough. I would probably go for someone like Kilman, or I would go for Lewis Dunk. How about Reece to Koulibaly? Not a bad shout, and he's someone maybe I haven't considered or talked about enough, and it's kind of like a like-for-like replacement, but like I said earlier, I think there are better options in terms of value. They're going to be cheaper, they might have more attacking potential, and be more nailed. But in terms of the Chelsea defence, he's probably one of the more nailed-on options. Has Kane over Haaland captain ever been discussed? Yes, across the week and even in previous weeks, I think it isn't a bad idea to sometimes go for someone like Kane or Son over Haaland. And I would be more inclined to go for Kane captaincy than Son. I think it is a good shout, but in my personal opinion, Haaland will score more points this week, and that's why I'm going for him. Of course, I could be wrong. I don't have Kane myself, so I don't have this dilemma, for my own squad. But, if I had both of them, I would consider it. I still would consider it, but because I think Haaland scores more points, that is my personal opinion. That's what I would say for you as well. What's the news with James' injury? Graham Potter said that he needs to see a specialist this week, so that's the official news. But in terms of several sources like Football London and the Daily Mail, they are reporting they could be out for the rest of the year. Mitrovic to Welbeck, Edouard, Solanke. Honestly, I'd go for none of them. Edouard has been good recently, but I still wouldn't be too convinced about him long term. I would keep Mitrovic, honestly. But if you were to get rid of him for someone, I would probably go for Edouard at the moment. Salah or Son? I'd go for Son at the moment. Yeah, Veltman is a good choice as well, mate. And he's also got the most points, I think, from Brighton defenders. But I think Dunk and Webster have more attacking potential, especially historically, Dunk has done it in the past. Yes, so in terms of Mitrovic, as we covered earlier, he has been training, but he still might not be fully ready. And there is a chance that he's going to be benched this week and also be available in Game Week 12. Marco Silva didn't say that, by the way, but he was saying that it might be too soon. So really, not anything kind of concrete. We don't have, an answer one way or another. But in my opinion, he will be benched this week, potentially. Yeah, Skamaka is a good option. He's one of the better replacements for Mitrovic. I agree with that. KDB to Son. Good move for free. I wouldn't do it for a hit. Doherty, Webster, Castagna, Kilman, or Gay for the next 4 game weeks? Good question. With the next 4 game weeks in mind, I would probably go for Gay. Yeah, because of the fixtures, I think Palace have 1 or 2 clean sheets in them. With Doherty, he's the best over the next 2 potentially, but you probably need to get rid of him after. Yeah, it has to be Gay for me. James to Webster, Game Week 11. Andreas to Almiron, Game Week 12. Zaha to Foden, Game Week 13. Thoughts? I really like that, Avi. I think it's a good set of transfers overall. I don't really think there's any, kind of move there that kind of stands out as a bad one. I think they're also all good. I don't think the Andreas to Almiron move is necessarily needed, but it's still a good move nonetheless. Salah to Son. Yes, but once again, Salah against Cancelo, if that indeed is the matchup this weekend, I think Salah could get the better of him and get a return or 2. And I said this even when I discussed selling him in the transfer tips, but of course, I probably would still go for Son. Bring in Robertson? No, too much money, not enough defensive returns, even attacking returns and underlying numbers or performances. I wouldn't do that. Sterling to Son for a -4. For a hit? No, I wouldn't do it. I think Sterling could actually score against Villa. Doherty, Webster, Castagna, Kilman. Yeah, I answered your question, Marco. I would go for Gay. Why do you keep saying you go for Dunk when you just mentioned Webster is twice as better data-wise? I covered it. I literally just covered it. The reason why is because Dunk is a better option historically. You know, he is one of the highest scoring defenders over the last 4 or 5 seasons in the Premier League, and I have more faith in him overall. Of course, it's a really small sample size to kind of just say Webster's better. Of course, he has been this season, but I don't think it's conclusive. Hi, Dylan. Do you think Firmino is nailed? Nailed? Do I think he starts every game? No. That's why I'm a bit put off him. And you've got Nunez there who could also share minutes. But with Liverpool playing a front four system in essence, you've got Jota on the left, Salah on the right. Then you've potentially got Jota and Firmino starting together. Sorry, I just said Jota. You've got Nunez and Firmino starting together. Then yes, I think he'll start more games than if Diaz was available. But I still don't think he starts every single game. That is my concern with him. And also, Liverpool can occasionally change systems and they won't always play that front four. But for the time being, I think it will be the case. Paqueta as a midfield option, I'm not convinced. I know he did well in the last game week, but not for me. Tony or Wilson? Wilson does face United, but Newcastle have been really good going forward. Wilson hasn't really done too much. You know, 1 goal and 1 assist in 2 games is good. But when you consider that Newcastle have scored 9 goals, it's not that appealing. I think I'd still go for Wilson, but Tony does have better fixtures over the next 5 overall. Dunk or Kilman? I would probably say Dunk. It's really close. I have to say it's really, really close. The problem with Dunk is that he's got some tough games after Game Week 12. Thank you, Punjabi. I appreciate it for your views and approach for FPL and UCL Fantasy. I really much appreciate your kind words and hopefully you do well this week. Let's face it, Liverpool can't play worse and we won't get Robertson any cheaper. True, and look, I love Robertson as an FPL asset, but I need to see more from him first. And Liverpool still, I think, will concede goals. They are attacking well, but they're not defending well at all still. Zaha, Mount or Anthony? Zaha for me. Start Gay or Share? Already have Pope and Trippier. I'd start Gay. But I will admit, I don't see a clean sheet for either team. Thank you, Karaki. I appreciate the kind words and the shout out. Will Martial start? I don't think he does. I think he is, in better shape than he was last week, and he should be in the squad, but I don't think he starts. How about starting Ward instead of double Newcastle, Pope and Trippier? Well, in my situation, I'm probably going to use a free transfer and bench Trippier anyway, but I do agree with you. I'm not a big fan of double Newcastle defence, even if it's against the United side that do struggle sometimes going forward. Which 2 would you start of Cancelo, Trippier, Dunk and Castagna? I appreciate your kind words as well. I would start Cancelo and probably Trippier. I know the fixtures aren't really there, but their ceiling, the source of points, the bonus points and all of that is really enticing. I'd go for those 2. Trippier's only blanked twice this season, so I'm actually in 2 minds about benching him, but I think I will do it if I make my transfer. Bench 1, Gay, Trippier or Kilman? I would bench Gay. What about Rashford? I haven't seen enough from him recently, and as I talked about after his big haul against Arsenal, my concern with him is how will he do against teams that sit back, and as we've seen so far, it hasn't gone according to plan. And from United, he is probably still my favourite midfielder, although Anthony is giving him a good run for his money, but I would rather go for Dalot to cover United overall. Honestly, I just don't see with Rashford. I think there's better options elsewhere. Cancelo or Cucurella? Cancelo for me. Obviously, if you have Cucurella, I would start him this week, but there's always the chance of him coming on for a 1-pointer. Bruno, the comment above says, Almiron, Andreas, Gross, Martinelli, Maddison, one of this 4 to go to the bench. Good question. I would say Almiron from those lot, but he has been really good recently. Got 2 free transfers. Is it worth selling James to Doherty? Don't want to burn a transfer. I'm in a very, very similar position to you, Sudindra. Yes, I think that's a good move. Yeah, I would do it. I think Doherty looks really good for this week, and he did really well last year. I think in Game Week 29 or 30 against Everton. I think it was maybe 28 or 29, something like that. What's the best pick for James and a -4 striker for Mitrovic? For James, I would probably go for someone like Doherty if you want someone with a lot of attacking potential. For the next 2, if you want someone a bit more longer term, then I would highly recommend a Crystal Palace defender, or I would go for someone like Kilman. In terms of a striker for Mitrovic, I would go for Firmino if you can. I really like Firmino at the moment. Thank you, Jeff, and thank you, Marius, for the super chat. 2 free transfers, James to Doherty. Done, like that. Patterson to Kilman or Roll. If Patterson is starting for you, Marius, which I'm guessing he isn't, so yeah, if he's starting for you, then I would make the other transfer because I think Kilman could do a really good job this week against Forest. Otherwise, you know, if you've got a good starting 11, you're happy with the player, you know, that's going to be in that Kilman position, then I'd roll. My gut feeling is to go for Kilman and start him. But to be honest, if you don't need to, then you don't need to, in my opinion. So let me know, you know, any updates on your team. And thank you for the super chat. Start one, Mitrovic, Andreas, or Gay. I would go for Mitrovic, and that's what I'm doing at the moment. But maybe the safest pick is to just start Andreas Pereira. Newcastle fans, give us your back four versus United. Yep, that's a good question there, John. Trent worth selling? Yes, he's out for the next 2 weeks. He's far too expensive. Liverpool don't keep clean sheets. The downside to getting him out is that Liverpool's fixtures do turn for the better very soon. I sold Mitrovic for Kane. Yeah, I mean, I was looking to do that as well, if not Ivan Toney, but things have changed for me. But I have to say, Kane is one of the best strikers in the game. 1 second, just going to deal with these spammers. Thank you, by the way, for all the mods for helping me moderate this chat today. Is Kamaka a good replacement for Mitrovic? Yes, he is. Probably one of my favourites at the moment. And even against Liverpool away, I think he can get some returns there. Should I transfer Wilson out? For who, though? That's the thing. If it's for Firmino or something long-term, then yes. But otherwise, I don't think you need to. Bench one. Like I said to you earlier, Bruno, I'd go for Almiron bench. Yeah, I mean, not always, but quite often, and more so in the FPL streams. It hasn't happened in my UCL fantasy streams, so hopefully I haven't jinxed it there. Start one, Maddison, Zaha, or Foden. I wouldn't bench any of them, to be honest, but if I had to start one, I'm probably going for Foden or Zaha, and I think I'd go for Zaha. I wouldn't bench any of them, honestly. Best 6.9 million forward. Apart from Mitrovic, it's Skamak, in my opinion. Arrizabalaga or Sarr? At the moment, I'd say Arrizabalaga. Koulibaly or Silva? I'd go for Koulibaly. Nico Williams start? I don't know why you spell it like that, by the way. It makes it more confusing. But I think he does, but I don't think he starts every single game, basically. What about Salah? If you have him, then you don't necessarily need to sell him right now. Obviously, the hat-trick against Rangers will make you be in favour, potentially, of keeping him. But I still would rather have medium-price midfielders like Trossard, Zaha, and all these different options, Foden in the long-term Saka, and then go for Kane up front potentially, or spread the money around basically. But Salah's an interesting one. I think if I had him, I probably wouldn't sell this week, especially with all the other fires to put out. So I have changed my mind from the transfer tips video, and I literally said in that video, once we see a bit of form from him, then we can reconsider. And I wouldn't put too much emphasis on the hat-trick against Rangers, but it is something. Soufal or Gay? I'd go for Gay. Although, to start this week, I would say Soufal. It's just, I'm not a big fan of him going forwards. De Bruyne to Salah next week? Yes. Or you can go to Son, or maybe just downgrade that position and upgrade your forward line. It's because I haven't refreshed the page, so if I do it now, James will be red. So there you go. Yeah, don't worry about that too much. Either way, I'm going to make my transfer fairly soon, by the way. The deadline is at 6:30 PM UK time. We've still got around an hour and 35 minutes left for that. Pope or Ward? I'd start Pope this week. Why did you leave Pope? And which goalkeeper do you think will keep a clean sheet? Why did I leave Pope? Oh, he's in my team. The reason why I'm going to start him is because I just don't trust Leicester to keep a clean sheet, if that's your question. And yeah, out of those two goalkeepers, none of them, to be honest. Sterling or Maddison better? Maddison. Will Perisic start? I believe so, Ahmed. And we'll talk about the predicted lineups very soon. If Paul O'Keefe puts out his predicted lineup, then be sure to let me know. And also any other lineups you see on Twitter. Thank you, Stephen. Pascal Gross to Maddison, or a better option? I would say yes, but Maddison is 1 yellow card away from suspension. So, unfortunately, I'd probably just hold Gross. 9.2 million in the bank, yes. I mean, you'd love to use that money. The other two midfielders I'd love to recommend to you are Saka, who I think could do great this week, but then blanks in 12, and then Foden, who also can do really well against Liverpool. Meeting was nice and quick. Oh, just voice crack. Was nice and quick. Let's learn about FPL. Thank you, Kat, and hopefully your meeting went well. Yeah, let's talk about FPL and all the injury doubts we have. Thank you, Marius, for the super chat. Cancelo, Trippier, Doherty, Justin, Kilman, start free. Good question. I would start Cancelo, Doherty, and I would start Kilman, and I'd bench Trippier as the first sub, Justin second. And I'd be very reluctant to bench Trippier, by the way, because obviously he's only blanked twice this season. He's been fantastic, but I'd probably go for Kilman, Doherty, and Cancelo. Doherty or Dunk to replace James? I mean, I'm in the same boat, and what I'm looking to do is potentially get Doherty in this week and then Dunk next week and kind of switch between them. Cucurella or Trippier to start this game week? I'd go for Trippier still. Obviously, Cucurella, if he starts, has a higher chance of a clean sheet, but I still prefer Trippier. Who to start, Martinez or Ward? That's a good question. I think I'd go for Martinez still. It's a close one, though. Really close one. And this is the thing. I don't expect a clean sheet from any of them. Benching Cher or Mings? I'd only bench Cher if you already have another Newcastle defender or two. And that includes Pope. Pope or KDB or Trossard? I mean, for this week, Trossard, but would I sell KDB to Trossard? Not necessarily. What about Cucurella? Will he start? I'm not sure, to be honest. My gut feeling is that Chilwell starts, but I could be wrong. You also have to think about what happened in midweek, and there, as a result, you could say Cucurella starts. That's fair enough, and maybe I'm wrong about that. You know what? I think Cucurella starts, but I'm just not sure about it, and that's why I literally just changed my mind. Start Castagna or Andreas? I would go for Castagna, but not expecting a clean sheet. You're mainly relying on attacking returns. Is Mitrovic worth starting? I believe so. Start Trippier or Castagna? I'd go for Trippier. Best place for the next 2 game weeks? I'd say Trossard is definitely right up there. He's my favourite. In terms of defenders, then I'd maybe look towards the likes of Kilman or Doherty. What are you starting? Ward and Trippier, Pope and Gay, Pope and Trippier. To be honest, mate, Pope and Trippier. Perisic, Doherty or Chelsea defender? I'd go for Doherty. Hi, Dylan. Do you think Soufal plays? Not sure, to be honest. I'm not sure if Soufal plays. What happens to him? Well, he's got competition with Carrere, and you've also got Johnson, who's yet to return, but that's really the big problem with him, rotation. Doherty or Kilman? For the next 2 Doherty, longer term, I'd say Kilman. Trippier or Castagna? Trippier. Replacement of Diaz. So apart from Saka and Foden, and with Foden being my favourite, I would look towards Trossard. If you've already got Trossard, then I would maybe look towards Zaha. And then Maddison, who I like a lot, but he is 1 yellow card away from suspension. Mitrovic to Skamaka, I really like that. I think that's a good move. Bowen to Zaha or hold him? I'd hold Bowen. For me, Trippier has earned a starting spot each and every week. Yeah, that is a good point, and that's one of the downsides towards me going for Doherty this week. Because if I do get Duncan Webster in this week, by the way, I'd probably still bench him. I know that sounds crazy, but, you know, I still like Trippier a lot, and I don't really expect a clean sheet from Brighton or Newcastle, so really it comes down to attacking potential and points, and I think Trippier has the higher ceiling. Transfer Almiron for Andreas. I really like Almiron. I talked about buying him this week. If you are prepared to go for a kind of 5 midfield structure and start Almiron most weeks, then that's fine. You know, I'd go for it. But to be honest, I think Andreas is a good option this week. And in terms of transferring Almiron out for Andreas, not necessarily. I'd just bench Almiron potentially this week. Start Mitrovic or Zinchenko? Mitrovic. They're both doubts anyway. Zinchenko could be out for a longer time than anticipated. Who is better to start, Gabriel, Saliba or Perisic? Perisic for the attacking potential. James, Solanke and KDB to Dunk, Kilman, Doherty, Kane and Trossard for a -4. Honestly, mate, I love it. The only concern is selling KDB for a -4, but the rest, Tor Smektu, what a name, is fine. Really good transfers. Thank you, Solares. I'm not sure about me getting top 10k anytime soon. Hopefully, you know, later on in the season, but really good stuff from you, mate. Hopefully you can push on and get an even better rank. Hey, mate, great stream as always. Thank you, Fabian. Who would you start, Dallo or Trippier? Honestly, mate, I'd go for Trippier. I don't see either team keeping a clean sheet. Newcastle have scored 9 goals in the last 2 games. Really good underlying numbers as well. And Trippier has the better attacking potential. So it has to be Trippier. Mitrovic or Andreas? I'd go for Mitrovic, but to be honest, he is the kind of riskier pick, so to speak. Sell or hold Sterling? For now, I'd hold, but I ultimately think he's a sell. Mitrovic to Firmino for free or Kane for a hit? Honestly, I'd actually go for Firmino. It sounds ridiculous, but that's my gut feeling. Who do you think is the best option for the poll? For me, it's the top 2 options. So James to Dunk or Webster. That's the one that prevents, let's say, transfers being booked in. And the other one is maybe better in terms of the ceiling for each game week. So going for Doherty this week for James would really benefit me, I think, in game week 11. However, or should I say game week... I'm losing count of the game weeks. Yes, it's game week 11. The only downside is benching Trippier as a result. But then in game week 12, I could then get Dunk in for Doherty, and Dunk will be facing Nottingham Forest at home. So I do play the fixtures, which is really risky, especially with defenders and jumping between them. But it does give me the highest ceiling each week. It's kind of a difficult one. I think my gut feeling is that the Doherty and Dunk moves are the best ones. So the first option that I put, which is 27% selected at the moment. Sell or hold Maddison? I'd hold him. I wouldn't sell him. But if he does become suspended, then things will change, of course. Yeah, Firmino does like a City goal. I mean, I'm mainly looking at him for Game Weeks 13 onwards, but even against City, I don't mind him. James to sub on Sufal or -4 to another defender. I'd probably... The only defender I'd take a hit for is Doherty or Perisic, no one else. And even then, I probably wouldn't. I'd just have Sufal come in or whoever. Would you take a hit for James? I decided yes and took Cucurella. I wouldn't have, and you're mainly relying on a clean sheet, which is possible, and Cucurella could start, but my main concern with Cucurella is starting week in, week out. Yes, Lazo, I think Perisic will play, but don't hold me to that. It's just my opinion. But my gut feeling is that Perisic and Doherty will be the wing-backs. I'm not sure if Perisic starts in Game Weeks 12 and 13, though. That's my concern. KDB plus Tony to Kane and Trossard for a free transfer. Really like it, to be honest. Or just go James to Doherty. I probably would do Doherty. And then you can sort that out later on in the season. But they're all good transfers. Who to captain other than Haaland? Kane or Son, I think, would be the main ones. Mount or Anthony? Probably Anthony from the two. Hey, didn't I have Cancelo, Trippier, Cucurella, Perisic, says Jeremy. So what is the concern? Getting rid of James? If that's the case, then I would look towards... If you want someone long-term, then just go for Anderson, I think, from Crystal Palace. But let me know, Jeremy. I have Andreas. Should I start Andreas or Tony? I would go for Tony. Obviously, back your gut. Look, you just said it. You don't think Tony will score this week. But, you know, it's completely up to you. I'm still going to go for Tony for myself. Which goalkeeper do you think will keep a clean sheet in FPL? That's a tough one this week. Really tough one. And do you think it's worth replacing Pope with them for a free transfer? I see what you mean. You know, in two minds about who to sell. Maybe Pope, a goalkeeper transfer is the way to go. I'm going to go for the fixtures in a second, and I'll give you an answer there. But I don't see too many clean sheets, I think. So if we check the fixtures, Brentford-Brighton, I think Brentford will score. Although I think Brighton will win the game, so something like a 3-1 or something. Leicester-Palace, I don't see a clean sheet for either team. Fulham-Bournemouth, maybe there's the odd chance of a Fulham clean sheet, but even then I don't see it. I think Wolves have a decent chance. So Wolves, Spurs, potentially Chelsea. Arsenal, maybe. You know, I'm saying maybe. So really, there's three teams that I'm quite confident of a clean sheet, and that's Wolves, Spurs, and Chelsea. Then the fourth one potentially would be Arsenal. That's my opinion, mate. So yeah, those would be the four. Is it worth selling one of your defenders or your goalkeepers like Pope to Jose Sa? Maybe, but honestly, I'd keep Pope. I think I'd keep Pope. Start Dunk or Gay? I'd start Dunk from the two. Ward or Sanchez? I would go for Sanchez this week. Perisic versus or Reece James? Well, Perisic, because James is potentially out for a long time. Is it good to remove Gordon for Eze? Yes, but I do prefer the likes of Xhaka, Almiron, and also potentially Billing. I'll probably maybe rank Eze above Billing, but in terms of the other two, I think Almiron would be my favourite with a Game Week 12 blank in mind. Could you make a tier list of the best defenders to buy? That is a good point. I will be honest, I'm in two minds about it because, you know, it all comes down to which players you have or don't have already, but I will make a tier list. I think we could do that. I'm probably going to write it down on notes or something, and then I might put it in the pinned comment or something like that. So best defenders, if we're talking long term, then I think the question does change a little bit. So people are probably going to laugh at what I'm going to say here, but let's see what you guys think. Maybe you can sort out my list for me as well. So in terms of the best, all right. So we'll go for something like this. It's a tough one. It's a really tough one. Dyer. James to Cucurella. Not a bad shout, but I think there's going to be too much rotation there. Got 2 free transfers, going to do James plus Mitrovic to Dyer and Tony, but in this case I have to bench either Paqueta or Diaz. Might as well only do James to Dyer. I do agree. Although Diaz away to Liverpool, I don't see a clean sheet. And, 1 or 2 points is possible. But yeah, I do understand your point there, Thief. And either way, you could start Paqueta, and bench Diaz. So yeah, I think that's fine, doing James to Dyer alone. So yeah, in terms of like a tier list, and I'm kind of ranking it in terms of clubs. So Wolves, Crystal Palace, Brighton, and Spurs defender. I think that's the kind of main things we need to look at. Maybe Chelsea defender as well. I'd actually probably rank it Crystal Palace defender first, Wolves defender second, Brighton defender third, and Spurs defender fourth. It's a tricky one though, and I think over the next two, it would be a different answer, and I would say, go for Doherty or Perisic. I think they could do really well. It is a close one though. Zaha, Mount, or Trossard? I'd go for Trossard over the next two. Longer term, it's Zaha. Mount is definitely the weakling from the three, in my opinion. Best long-term defender, I'd probably say Anderson. Cucurella, hold or sell? I'd hold him. Mitrovic to Firmino for -4. For a hit ahead of City? No. Should I sell Trent and Mitrovic and get Firmino, Tony, and Dyer? Yes, I would. You don't necessarily need to sell Mitrovic, by the way, if you have a good squad, Islam, but I would sell Trent and I would go to a Spurs defender potentially. Rashford or Zaha or Mount? I'd go for Zaha. Who out of KDB, Maddison, and Martinelli is a good captaincy option? I'd say Martinelli. KDB as well, of course. He's always a good option, but I'd go for Martinelli. With the blank in 12, sell KDB to Son now or hold? If it's for free, I'd sell now, but KDB can always come back to bite you. Mitrovic to Kane, done. I really like that, Amir. I think that's fantastic. Firmino or Nunez after City? Firmino. Start Andres or Mitrovic? I'd go for Mitrovic. Ola Dilan, please explain how you'll bring up the away kits. It's the away kits Chrome extension. If you type it in on Google, you'll find it. It's going to be in the Chrome extensions kind of website, and it's, I think, created by Trout. Captaining Son, bored of Haaland. That's completely fair enough, but I'm not bored of Haaland's points, I'll be honest, and I don't want to just captain someone for the sake of being different. I'm not saying you are. Just bear in mind, just try to think why you're doing it. If you think Son scores more points, then go for it. I think that's a good decision. For Game Week 12, I have 7 guaranteed starters, including free transfers, along with Mitrovic, Perisic, Nico Williams, James. Should I wildcard this week or still hold for 13? Good question. If you have 2 free transfers this week, for example, I would hold the wildcard for Game Week 13. Why not Pereira in your starting squad? That is a good point. What I might do anyway is getting a defender, so Doherty or Dunk, and then they will start alongside Trippier, and I will bench the Fulham assets. But that is a good point. I don't really expect Mitrovic to start this week. Thank you, Imran. Start Mitrovic or Almiron? I would start Mitrovic, but there is a risk there. Bernardo Silva or Mount? At the moment, I'd go for Bernardo Silva. Of course, he does blank in 12, though. Start Davis or Cucurella? Davis from Spurs. In that case, I'd go for Davis. Pope, Cancelo, Trippier, Soufal, Bowen, Foden, Martinelli, Trossard, Maddison, Haaland, and Tony. Another advance or forward. Haaland, Tony, and I'd say Firmino if you can. Kane or Haaland captain? I personally go for Haaland, but Kane is still a great choice. He's my second favourite this week. Is Mitrovic fit? We don't know yet. He has trained, but he might not be ready in time for Game Week 11, and that's what Marco Silva said today. I currently have Son, Haaland, and Salah. Should I hold them or spread the funds? I would spread the funds, and ideally, I would sell Salah out of the 3. Although he is a better option in Game Week 13, or 12, should I say, compared to Son. Arnold to Robertson, Van Dijk, or Kilman? I would go for Kilman, mate. We'll get Salah or Firmino next week. I'd get Firmino at the moment, to be honest. I have 6 players from City and Arsenal. Is it a good idea to free hit? Look, if you've got those 6 and you've also got a few other problems, like James, and you can't really sort it out without using a free hit, then I'd go for it. But if you can, and you see an opportunity, for example, you have 2 free transfers this week, and you can start to eat away and, get rid of some of these players, then I would save it. I really think the free hit is more beneficial in a blank or double later on in the season. Is Thiago Silva a start? I think he starts, but I don't think he does every single week. And I think there will be a benching within the next 3, including the Champions League. Is captaining Martinelli over Haaland and Kane stupid? No. I wouldn't do it, but I think he is one of the better outside picks. Is Son a must-have? No, he's not a must-have. Definitely not. You literally said it yourself. He's in bad Premier League form. Why is he a must-have? The only player I think is a must-have is Haaland, really, at the moment. Do you think Doherty will play in Game Weeks 11, 12, 13? The first 2, yes. I think he's benched in 13, though. Yes, Mardy, I didn't mean to. I swapped Mitrovic for Cristiano and James for Dyer. I wouldn't have gone for Ronaldo. Of course, he probably will start, you'd say. With the injury doubts, I think Martial will be in the squad. So it's not a bad shout, of course. And Ronaldo did really well against Newcastle last season, but this is a different Newcastle team. James Dyer looks pretty good to me. And to be honest, Ronaldo can always do well, to be fair. Ward or Gaeta, thanks. I would go for probably... That's a good question. I'd probably go for Ward. If I had to pick one, start Emerson or Gay, I would go for Emerson. But the big, risk there is if he comes on for a one-pointer. High potential scoring differentials, Nunez, Pulisic, Doherty, Perisic, Robertson, Solanke. I would say Firmino. He's got a decent record against City. He's been in fine form. He would be my pick over Nunez. But yeah, there's some good picks there like Doherty and Perisic. I really like them. I have Martinelli, Diaz, Gross and Rashford in my squad, but Diaz will be out till December. Who could you replace him with? Apart from obviously Foden, Saka, who I would recommend in the long term, I would go for Trossard. Yeah, and then in the long term, you can start to do, for example, Rashford and Gross to Foden and, let's say, for example, Zaha. What transfers are you doing? Well, I haven't decided yet, and I've got around an hour or so before the deadline, but I am considering doing a bit of a punt and doing something like this and getting Doherty in for Reece James, and I will still have 2 free transfers in Game Week 12, which is when I could do Doherty to Dunk, and then going into Game Week 13, I could then do the transfers I was planning to make all along, which was Ben White and Foden in for, Dunk or Doherty, whoever it may be, and I would also get rid of Zaha potentially or Heung-min Son. So that's what I'm kind of looking at the moment. So just to kind of put it all into context, then you can also visualize it. Let's put it here on FPL.team. So in Game Week 11, this is how I could line up with Doherty starting, Trippier first on my bench, or he could even start over Mitrovic. And in terms of, ignore the vice captaincy, by the way, I don't know why I switched to Tony. Then in Game Week 12, I could then get in Dunk for Doherty and just have this starting 11. Maybe captain Son or Maddison or someone else. And then in Game Week 13, I would bring in Ben White and Phil Foden. So let me know what you think of those transfer plans, but I might kind of take a few punts in the defense, which I rarely do. Thank you, Islam. I appreciate it. Should I get Son instead of Sterling? I probably would out of those two, yes. Webster or Anderson? Anderson, if you're looking long term. Dylan, which Arsenal defender do you think is the best pick? Saliba, Gabriel, or White? I think White. He's starting every single game. He's playing as the right back, so I think he's got the best assist potential. In terms of goal scoring potential, it's Gabriel, but I would go for White. He's the cheapest as well, only 4.5 million. And you asked about my other defenders earlier. Goalkeeper Gaeta, Cancelo, Kilman, Cancelo, James, Justin. So probably looking for a Brighton defender. Yeah, I think that's the way to go, Amir. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Maybe a Spurs one, but I think a Brighton defender is just fine for the next two. -4 to replace James. Not a big fan of a -4. I think the only ones that are maybe worth it is a defender like Perisic or Doherty who has a high ceiling, but they could also come back to bite you. Nico bench. Problem is no transfers. Nico has to play Game Week 12. Yeah, I see what you mean there. You got Anderson, Andreas, Nico bench. To be honest, I would not take a hit this week. Just make the transfer next week, Twisted Parky. Do it for free, and I think you'll have a starting 11 there, and that should be fine. Man United defender to go for, Dallo, and that's pretty much it at the moment. Start Sanchez or Ward? I would go for Sanchez. Dylan, which Arsenal defender would you pick? Yeah, I think I just said that. Maybe I just made a mistake there. But yeah, White would be my answer. My pun is going to be Salah for KDB. As a Liverpool fan, it's more a hope than a belief. To be fair, though, Salah has done well against Liverpool. Well done. Salah has done well against City in the past, especially at Anfield. It just depends really who City play there. If it's Ake, I'd be a bit more concerned about Salah. But if it's Cancelo, I think Salah has an attacking return or two for sure. So it's not a bad shout, to be fair. And also, KDB does blank in 12, so it's a good transfer, ultimately. Although I wouldn't have done it myself, I will admit. Will Sterling start? I believe so. Dunk or Kilman, and why? Kilman because he's got better long-term fixtures. Dunk faces the likes of City very soon. James out, Anderson in. Looks fine to me. Really good long-term solution. You just want to see some clean sheets finally from Palace. Lloris or Pope? Lloris. I think Lloris will get a clean sheet this week, potentially. Best midfielder under 8 million. I would say Zaha. Normally it's Maddison. Actually, no, he's 8.3 now, isn't he? So yeah, it's just Zaha anyway. Unless I'm forgetting someone like Trossard. Zaha would be my answer. James to Nico or Emerson? Neither. I would not get any of them in. Both of them won't start week in, week out, in my opinion. I think Nico will get more game time, though. Sterling better. Damn start, yeah, I think so. I think he will. Do you think Doherty is good in Game Weeks 11 and 12? Yes. He does face United in 12, though, and I don't see a clean sheet for Spurs. But I think he's got a really good chance for clean sheet in Game Week 11, and maybe an attack and return as well. That is a really good total, FPL Josh. Start Alisson or Pope? I'd go for Pope. Solanke for Mitrovic, what do you think? It's not a bad transfer, but I wouldn't do it. I would just be happy to hold Mitrovic for another week. Dunk or Kilman and why? Yeah, I answered that, mate. I feel Kilman bullet header incoming. I mean, that would be great, honestly. I'm not sure if that'll happen, but that would be great. Do you see Arsenal keeping a clean sheet this week? When I was mentioning the teams that I think will get one, so I said Wolves, Spurs, and Chelsea, I also said Arsenal probably the fourth most likely. So that's kind of where my head's at. I'm not that confident of a clean sheet. I think Leeds could score a goal. But if you were to say, Dylan, just say yes or no. Don't sit on the fence. I'd say yes, Arsenal keep a clean sheet, but I'm not sure. Dylan, who to captain? Out of those three, I'd go for Kane. So Kane over Rashford and Salah. But Anderson, Emerson or Nico? I would go for probably Emerson, but it's a really risky one. My plans are literally in the poll, mate. So at the moment, I'm leaning towards Doherty. You'll see it here on FPL.team. So getting Doherty in for James, and then maybe in 12, I can get Duncan for Doherty, so kind of switch between them. And then in 13, I can make 2 free transfers, and I can bring in Ben White and Foden. Let me know what you think of that, but that's what my head's at the moment. Will Perisic be available? Yes, he has been available recently. He just hasn't got minutes, really. But I think he will start. Who to replace Gibbs White with? Already have Maddison, Zaha, Son. I would go to Trossard. For the next two, Vincent, you can't go wrong, I think. Thanks, Dylan. Probably going to bring in Trossard for Maddison or Gross next week. I would personally keep Maddison for now. Obviously, if he is suspended next week, then get rid of Maddison instead. But otherwise, I'd get rid of Gross. I've kept Salah whole year. Wow. That is some serious faith. I mean, look, Salah is the best FPL asset of all time overall, but he hasn't been doing it recently. Still good, but just nowhere near enough to justify that extensive price tag. But let's wait and see. I think he can turn things around. He showed what he could do against Rangers, but it is a very weak opposition, of course. Sell 1 or 2 of Cancelo, KDB, Haaland. I'd only sell 1, and that would be KDB, but you don't need to do it this week. You can do it next week, mate. I would definitely keep Cancelo and Haaland, for sure. I mean, look at the alternatives, you know. Are you going to sell Haaland? Never. And Cancelo? I mean, James is injured. You've got Trippier, but you might have him already. I mean, yeah, just keep Cancelo and Haaland. Kane will outscore Jesus. I mean, I'm not debating that. I think Jesus will do well, but Kane will score more points, yeah. Play Gay or Justin? I would go for Justin. Zaha or Eze? I'd go for Zaha still. Murphy got 8 points on my bench last week. Should I directly play him? No, I wouldn't still. The only concern with what I just said is that Mitrovic comes on for a 1-pointer. Otherwise, you're not missing out on too much there. Is starting Anderson this week okay? Yeah, it's okay. I just don't expect a clean sheet for Palace, but I am expecting the clean sheets to come fairly soon, just not right now. It's not a bad shout. Yeah, Doherty as a third defender is completely fine, but he's only a short-term punt. Emerson will be back in Game Week 13, and I think he gets his spot back. He is the main right wing back for Spurs. Should I start Trossard? I mean, I wouldn't bench him for sure. I'd start him. Is Sterling a good differential? He's a good differential, but captaincy choice, I wouldn't go there personally. I think Game Weeks 12 to 15, he'll score a hat-trick against Forest and West Ham. It's possible. I think maybe 1 hat-trick potentially, or a bunch of goals. I'm not sure. I need to see more from him first. I mean, if he gets 2 hat-tricks in 3 game weeks, I mean, that will break the game, I think. Trossard or Bowen? I prefer Trossard. I want to start Andreas instead of buying Kane for a -4, but I am so afraid of Kane. I mean, it depends which players you're getting out for that -4, but I'd probably just favour the Kane move for a -4. Will Soufal start? I believe so, but I don't think he does every single week. Zaha or Maddison this game week? This game week, Zaha. Hi, I'm planning to bench 3 players from City Arsenal Game Week 12, so I need a full proper 11 next game week, but the problem is I have Soufal, Nico and Mitrovic on the bench. Well, Mitrovic could be available in Game Week 12, so let's wait and see. I'd probably hold for now. Take a -4 for Soufal, or just what I would look to do is make the move next week for free and potentially get rid of Sufal, and you can go to a Crystal Palace defender, Wolves defender, maybe Brighton, you name it. But I wouldn't take a hit if you can. Just joined, news on James and Mitrovic. We talked about this earlier. So James could be out for the rest of the year, but Potter, the official news, is that he's going to see a specialist this week, and then they'll decide what to do. As for Mitrovic, there is a chance he's going to miss out this week. He has been in training, but I think it was mainly strategy. That's what Marco Silva said. And he hasn't been in training for a long period of time, and he's been out for 2 weeks, so it might be too early for him. Maddison or Mitrovic? Maddison this week. Thank you, John. I appreciate it. Captain Mitrovic? No, definitely not. I mean, he might not even start. Yeah, the defender transfer is so hard, exactly. And that's why I'm considering Doherty and then switching to someone like Dunk in Game Week 12. KDB or Haaland for captain? I'd go for Haaland personally. Trossard minus for Maddison or Gross next week? Like I said, I'd probably do Gross, but it all depends on if Maddison gets that yellow, which then sets him out. So right now it would be Gross, but if Maddison's suspended, then of course I'd say him. Zaha, a good captain. Not a bad one to be fair against Leicester, but I wouldn't go there. I'd rather go for Martinelli if you want to go different. How about doubling up with Saka, Martinelli? Honestly, I really like it. And also you got Foden. That's what I'm looking to do in Game Week 13. So get in either Saka or Foden. At the moment, I'm leaning towards Foden. And also, I could do it in Game Week 14. So if I show you this other kind of transfer here, when Maddison faces City, I could then bring in Bukayo Saka, who will face Nottingham Forest. The only problem is that in Game Week 15, Arsenal would then face Chelsea, but it's still not too shabby, I think. It looks pretty good, but that's a good suggestion. I like that, and honestly, I have no problems with it. So yeah, we'll go back to my Game Week 11 team. All right, so Trippier or Dyer this game week? Dyer has a much better chance of a clean sheet, but if you don't have Pope in goal, I would go for Trippier for the attacking potential. Mitrovic will start for sure. He has been training from last Saturday, and Silva's playing mind games to surprise Bournemouth. Look, you might be onto something really good there. You know, it could be mind games, you're right. Marco Silva said last week that he was very confident about Mitrovic being available. Now he has kind of completely changed his tune, but you just don't know with these injuries. We don't know. There's a chance that you're right, but there's also a chance that Mitrovic doesn't start. So let's wait and see. It should be interesting. Ward or Raya? This week, I'd go for Raya. If I'm thinking of it right, yeah, I'd say Raya. Sarr and Kilman, a nice combination for my team. It's not too shabby, but Wolves, no manager. They're in the relegation zone. We need to see much more from them. Are you not worried if Perisic plays right wing back and Sessegnon left wing back? It's a possibility, but Perisic hasn't got minutes recently, and also he was awful on the right whenever he's played there. I don't think it's a good idea. I have a free transfer. Who should I sell between Arnold and Martial? Arnold, because he's out for 2 weeks and Martial could be back even sooner. So Arnold. And who to replace him with? I would probably go for a Crystal Palace defender if you want someone long term. So Anderson. And that answers O9's question. ON9's question. I'd go for Anderson over Gay if you can. Walker Corella start? I believe so, but very, very mixed on that. Play Leno or Edison? I mean, normally it's Edison, but when you look at the fixtures, tough. I think I'd still go for Edison. I know it sounds crazy. When will you do the transfer? Within the next hour or so, definitely. Rate my team on a scale of 5. It's always the same person with a scale of 5. It's an interesting one. Haaland captain, Kane, Jesus, really great front three. Maddison, Zaha, Trossard, Xhaka. I would probably go for a 4. The things that kind of let it down, so to speak, is Gay and not necessarily Xhaka. I don't think he lets it down, but I think there are better options this week. But yeah, those are the 2. The rest looks great and could do a really good job for you. You're panicking over nothing. Fair enough. I mean, look, we let's wait and see. There's a lot of things to consider in FPL, and things can go wrong so quickly. If you have Salah, would you switch this week? Right now, with everything going on, no. I would change my mind for my transfer tips, and I wouldn't sell. James to Dyer, good transfer, Hassan. I think it could go pretty well for you. Spurs have a great chance of a clean sheet this week. Not so much in Game Week 12, but that's a bit different. And by the way, be right back, everyone. I am going to take a short break, and I'll be back. And we've covered everything we need to know. And I think when I do return, which will be just in a minute or 2, we are going to go through some predicted lineups, and we can talk about Spurs and all these different top 6 teams, and maybe Mitrovic himself. We can put a poll out. Do you think Mitrovic starts this week or not? So all of that will be just here after the break. So just be right back. I will only be a minute or 2. Thank you very much for waiting. We are back and we are going to keep on going through your questions, and we are also going to cover some predicted lineups very, very soon. It was a water break, don't worry. But thank you for the speculation. Captain Haaland or Kane? I personally would go for Haaland, but Kane is a really good option this week. Hi, bud. How are you? Thank you, Mark. It's good to see you once again. Thoughts on KDB and Andreas out for Trossard and Zaha? Planning for the blank midfield of Zaha, Maddison, Martinelli, Bowen, Trossard if I go ahead. Honestly, I think those transfers are exceptional. Obviously, getting rid of KDB is always a big risk. That is going to be the only caveat there, but otherwise you're improving your team, you're setting it up well for Gameweek 12, and even after that you can start to maybe move from Trossard to Foden or Saka, so you've got a flexible midfield, and that's kind of the midfield I'm looking to go for as well, with the exception of maybe Bowen, who's still a good option. I think that's good. I haven't got Doherty yet. Yeah, with Doherty, my prediction is that he'll start the next two, and then he will be benched because he's not the first choice. It's Emerson Royale. I don't think Mitrovic will start, fair enough. We're going to put that poll out very soon, by the way. And in terms of the poll, which showed my transfer plans, thank you very much for voting for it. Over 1,300 votes, and 41% of you went for James to Duncan Webster. Keep it simple. And 27%, the second vote, was getting Doherty in this week and then Dunk next week, which is obviously, I never like to recommend that sort of thing in terms of jumping between defenders, but there you go. That is something I am considering. Thank you, Irene. I appreciate it. I have value stored in Martinelli and Haaland. Should I keep them? I would not sell Haaland, mate. You want to have him back eventually. Yes, you are playing the wildcard. That's fair enough in 13, so it's not a big deal. But if you are going to have these players on your wildcard anyway, which I assume you will, I would probably just keep. I mean, it's a good question you raise, actually, with the wildcard in 13. If you don't have Kane, you could do something like that, you know, Haaland to Kane in 12. Otherwise, though, I'd probably just keep, even with the wildcard in mind. Should I transfer Salah and get Son? I think Son could do really well against Everton this week, but I also wouldn't be surprised if Salah got some attacking returns. I probably would, but just bear in mind it can always go tits up, as they say. Thoughts on Estupinian? I think he's a bit of a rotation risk, and you know we've got kind of 3 or 4 days in between game weeks, and Mitoma, he's a really, really good player. He can also get a start very, very soon. So I'd rather go for someone a bit more nailed like Webster, Dunk, or Veltman, to be honest. KDB, Jesus, Foden to Zaha, Trossard, Kane -4 this week. Honestly, sorry, no. I would not do that. I like the players you're bringing in, but getting rid of Foden, Jesus, and KDB this week from -4, not for me. Sorry. Obviously, it's your team. You know, go for it. You are improving your team for the next 2 game weeks overall, but from -4 hit, getting rid of KDB and Jesus and Foden, not for me. Actually, that isn't Foden, is it? It's fodder. That's fair enough. But even KDB and Jesus, I don't think that's a good idea, mate. Top 3 players that you're afraid of not owning this game week, Kane for sure is the top one. Other options would maybe include Foden, who does well typically against Liverpool at Anfield. But yeah, it's mainly Kane. If I had to name another 2 options, it would potentially be Perisic if he starts. And the other one would be... Well, it has to be one of Saka or Jesus, yeah. Once again, I'm going for Haaland myself, but Kane is a good option as well. He's my second favourite. Wow, is that right, John? Yeah. I mean, look, the fixtures are there for Fulham, but are they going to get the clean sheet? Let's wait and see, but should be interesting. Any plans on Jota, Nunez, Salah in Game Week 12? It's not necessarily no Liverpool players until the World Cup. It's until they show some form. But the one player I really like is Firmino, definitely. And if Mitrovic, was ruled out for a long time, he could even be in this week, Firmino. The others are good, and I'm interested particularly in Salah, Nunez, of course, but I think it's Firmino. Is Foden 100% this week? Pep talked about it the other day. Him, Bernardo Silva, and Haaland are all fine. They've kind of recovered from their little knocks and problems. Should all be good. No, Darren, I'm not hiding my transfer. I'm literally just still deciding. I've got around an hour left to decide. And I'll probably... Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a defender move, I think. It's going to be one of probably Dunk, Webster, or Doherty coming in. But let's wait and see. Things can change, of course, if we somehow get any late news. Also, thoughts on going James and Mitrovic out to Webster and Darwin, Firmino. I like it overall. I'd go for Firmino over Darwin, personally. And I think it is a good set of transfers for the next 2 game weeks. And obviously the Liverpool players look good beyond that. Transfer plans this week. I'm probably getting, like I just said, a Brighton defender or Doherty in or Reece James and saving the other transfer. Thoughts on starting Andreas over Mitrovic? Obviously, it does look good on paper. It's logical. I can understand why you're doing it. But if Mitrovic does start, I would be kicking myself. And that's why I think I'm going to just go for Mitrovic. But of course, anything can happen. We just don't know yet. Yeah, Foden's been killing it for me, but transferred him out 1 week early for Mount. Yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah, I mean, if he had 5 or 6 blankers, then that makes complete sense. I'm not a big fan of Mount, though, despite his improvement. And Foden is actually an FPL troll for me. I had him last season. When I got him in, he was absolutely awful. As soon as I get rid, he starts getting points again. Dunk or Webster? Probably Dunk, but Webster has the better attacking stats this season. Is it worth taking a hit from Pascal Gross to Trossard? No. I mean, if you look at what's happened so far under the new manager, Trossard is a significantly better option. But is it worth a hit? I would rather just save the free transfer for next week and do it. Salah or Son? I prefer Son right now. Replacements for Isak? I would go for either Skamaka. I mean, apart from Mitrovic, I'd love to say him, but you can't. Ivan Toney, or if you can, my number 1 pick is Firmino. Mitrovic, Fofana, and James out for Solanke, Gay, and Doherty. Yes, I think that's good. Good set of transfers. When Mitrovic returns, I'd obviously be a bit concerned, but the rest is good. My current defense is Zinchenko, Chilwell, Cucurella, Trippier, and Laporte. Yeah, I think that defense long term, there's too many concerns there. And you got Trippier, which is good, but after Game Week 12, I would highly recommend getting Cancelo in. I think he's fantastic. I would get him in for Laporte, for example. In terms of Chilwell, Cucurella, I understand what you're doing there. That's fine. Zinchenko is an injury out anyway, but there's plenty of options you can go to. So Anderson, you've got Kilman, a Spurs defender. Any of those would also help your problems, I think. But to be honest, there's not any standouts in defence. Ward over Pope, not for me this week. Dylan is okay to sell Sufa for a -4 in case Cucurella's not playing. I personally would save the -4, mate. I wouldn't take a -4 for that. When Nunez plays, he hogs most of the chances. Yeah, that is true. It's just so hard to ignore Firmino's form. Top 3 James replacements. Good question. I would say Anderson, Hillman, and Dyer. That is my top 3. I know Dunk is a really good option as well. But if you're kind of looking longer term, that will be my top 3. Is Bailey fit? He is in contention to start, yes. It doesn't mean he's going to start this week, though. Why are people getting Dyer for James replacement? Great chance of a clean sheet against Everton. Also plays in Game Week 12, of course, although it is against United. And then the fixtures after are fairly decent, they're kind of average. Do you think Mitrovic only 1 pointer this week? No. I mean, it's possible, but I don't think so. Otherwise, he definitely would be my bench. Doherty or Dunk? For this week, it's Doherty, no doubt about it. But for the next 2 overall, that's where you could maybe go for Dunk, because he does face Nottingham Forest in Game Week 12. It's a tough one, but for this week, it's definitely Doherty. Play Billing or Mitrovic? I'd go for Mitrovic personally. Hope Welbeck calls. Yeah, I mean, it'd be great to see. He needs to score some goals for starters. Play Gay or Justin? I would play Justin for the attacking potential. Who is the better option, Dunk or Anderson? I'd say Anderson. If you're looking long term, by the way. For this week, it's Dunk, no doubt about it, and next week. Dunk or Veltman or Webster? For me personally, it's Dunk, but they're all good, and it's very, very hard to split them. Welcome, LFC. Play Andreas or Dunk? I would play Dunk, I think, just about. Sell James? Yes, I would. Salah or Zaha? I'd rather have Zaha at this moment in time. Also saves a lot of money. For Game Weeks 11 and 12, Webster, Doherty or Perisic? Great question. I would go for either Webster or Doherty. And if I had to pick one, for both Game Weeks combined, it'd be Webster. Should I play Bailey or Nico for James? Or take a -4? I mean, ultimately, you want to sell James anyway, based on what we've heard today. I would start Nico Williams, I think. Would I? That's a good question. I think I'd take the -4 ultimately. I'm really starting to get more inclined to just buying an Arsenal defender. Yeah, I mean, I want to get Ben White right now if I could, but to be honest, it just doesn't make sense with Game Week 12. I'll be setting myself a man short. If I had more Arsenal players already, if I had Ben White, I would just keep him and, not worry about that for now. So I do understand what you're saying there, but I still would try to think otherwise. Dyer over Webster. Spurs fixtures aren't great defensively. Yeah, they aren't great defensively, but in this game week, I think they have a great chance of a clean sheet, maybe the highest of any team. But yeah, I do see what you mean. But Webster also does face City very soon. Fue una buena idea que haya vendido a Mitrovic. Y es muy difícil saber porque no sabemos si va a jugar en la jornada 12 o no, pero yo creo que va a estar disponible en la jornada 12. No sé si va a estar disponible este fin de semana. Depende también de quién compraste para Mitrovic. Do I keep Mitrovic? I probably would, but like I was just saying to Joaquin, it is a difficult one because we just don't know the full extent. It could be Marco Silva mind games. It could also be, the injury becoming worse than it was originally anticipated. Welcome the Flying Dutchman. Also, do I get rid of Salah for KDB or Maddison or no? I wouldn't get rid of Salah for KDB now because you've got the blank in 12. Maddison's 1 yellow card away from suspension. Honestly, I'd keep Salah. Start Pope or Ward, I would go for Pope. Perisic or Dunk, I would go for Dunk. Dunk or Anderson, only for 2 game weeks. Dunk. Perisic, Dyer or Doherty, I would go for Doherty for the next 2. Longer term, Dyer is just the safest pick. KDB and Aronson to Son and Martinelli, or James to Webster and hold a transfer. I would do the midfielder transfers. Obviously, bear in mind Martinelli blanks in 12, but that looks good. That's fair enough, Mark. Thank you very much for the kind words. I have 4 Man City Arsenal players, and with James and Mitrovic flagged, do you think I should take a hit to prepare for Blank Gameweek 12? Look, if you have 10 players in Blank Gameweek 12, it's not the end of the world, so don't worry too much about that. The main concern for you is getting rid of James. If you have someone like KDB, for example, I would move them on to Son or maybe downgrade to Trossard or someone else around 7 to 8 million. And ultimately, you can then, in Game Week 13, bring in Foden or Saka. So, really, I wouldn't worry too much about that. Mitrovic fit for this game? I think he will be for 12. For 11, I'm not so sure. I'm hoping he is. That's really what it comes down to. If I had to guess, it's yes, and that's why he's in my starting 11 at the moment. But honestly, it's really, really difficult to tell. James' injury is so sad. Would have started in the World Cup. Obviously, it's not like he's officially ruled out. There is a huge concern about him missing the World Cup, but there is still a chance. Is KDB not playing this week? Yes, he is. There's no chance for him, or no reason for him not to, should I say. Salah to Son or Trossard? Son long term. I like Trossard a lot for the next 2, but if you're not wildcarding in 13, I'd go for Son. Because Trossard faces City very soon and also some tough fixtures as well. I'm not Spanish per se, but I do speak it. Who should I replace James with if I have Trippier and Cancelo already? I mean, that's the question that we all have to answer. I would probably, if you want someone long-term, I'd go for Anderson or maybe someone like Kilman or Dyer. If you want someone for the next 2, I would highly recommend Doherty or Dunk. Aspie as a replacement for James, not for me, but not a bad shout in my opinion. Start Andreas or Mitrovic, I'd go for Mitrovic personally. Salah to Son, Trossard, Mount, I would go to Son out of those 3. But Trossard for the next 2 is the best. Which players should I replace James with? Once again, like I said earlier, you're looking at a Crystal Palace defender, I'd go for Anderson, Kilman. I would also consider someone like Dyer. If it's 2 game weeks only that you need, I would go for Dunk or Doherty. Hi Dylan, do you have a side-by-side comparison of Dunk and Webster? We literally covered it earlier in the stream, Patrick. I'll try to get it up for you again. But we have a few other things to show you, actually, which I haven't shown just yet. So we talked about the fixture tick and stuff and the predicted points. We don't need to go through that again. But basically, Kane and Son are the highest scoring in terms of the predicted points this week. So let's now go through some other bits of news. So if you aren't aware, so Reece James, there are some rumours about him potentially missing out the rest of the year, really, and missing out the World Cup. But Graham Potter did kind of downplay this, and he was talking about the fact that he needs to see a specialist this week, and then we'll find out what happens. But my gut feeling is that he is going to have surgery, and he will be out for several weeks and months. So that is why he is a sell. And also, if we go to Marco Silva and his comments on Mitrovic, he's getting better. He did the warm-up and the session today was more strategy. Today was the first day he was involved with the team. After 2 weeks without, we're checking and assessing him. So there is a chance he starts, but there's also, it wouldn't be surprising if he was left out of the squad or benched. Anything can happen in regards to Mitrovic. And then if we go through some more pages, if we have Paul O'Keefe's lineup. So his predicted lineup against Everton: Lloris in goal, Christian Romero, Dyer and Davis to complete the back line, Doherty and Perisic as the wing-backs, Højbjerg and Bentancur as the midfielders, Richarlison, Kane and Son up front. So, yeah, I mean, this is good news for Perisic and Doherty owners. This is also what I expect to be the starting 11. I do agree with him on this. Of course, I don't know anywhere near as much about Spurs as he does. And let's see if we've got any predicted lineups here from Jump the Wave, aka Emma. So, yeah, these were posted around 5 p.m. So if we get the Man United predicted lineup, we'll go through that quickly. So De Gea, we've got Varane, Dalot, Martinez, Shaw, Casemiro, Eriksen, Fernandes, Anthony, Rashford, and we've also got Sancho starting as well. Not much love for Ronaldo in there. So yeah, Rashford expected to start up front there for Manchester United. Then we've got the Arsenal predicted lineup. So Ramsdale in goal. We've got Tomiyasu. It's kind of mixed here between Tomiyasu and Tierney to start as the left back. And actually, I think Tomiyasu will start. Tierney started in the Europa League literally yesterday. So Tomiyasu, White, Saliba, Gabriel, Partey, Xhaka, Odegaard, Saka, Martinelli and Jesus. I completely agree. The only doubt would be Tomiyasu, Tierney, and I also agree with this prediction. It probably will be Tomiyasu. Then we go to Spurs, Lloris, Romero, Davis, Dyer, Doherty, Perisic. So once again, completely agrees with what Paul O'Keefe says. Højbjerg, Son, Bentancur, Kane, Richarlison. So completely the exact same there. And then Liverpool, Alisson, Robertson, Van Dijk, Gomez, Konate. So Gomez playing as the right back. Then we've got Fabinho, Thiago. Not much love there for Henderson, you can see. But then you've got Salah, Firmino, Jota, and Darwin Nunez. So a 4-2-3-1 with Fabinho and Thiago as the holding midfielders, so to speak. And then the last kind of two, Chelsea predicted lineup. So Kepa in goal. Cucurella is predicted to start, for those of you asking. Koulibaly, Azpilicueta, Chalobah. Chalobah, Thiago Silva, Loftus-Cheek, Jorginho. Then you also got Kovacic, Mason Mount, Aubameyang, and Sterling. So that is the predicted lineup for Chelsea. And the last one, and another really important one, is Man City. Edison in goal, Cancelo, Diaz, Ake. Anyone else I'm missing? No, I don't think so. Rodri, KDB Silva, Foden, Haaland, and Grealish. Oh yeah, Kanji there on the right-hand side. So yeah, I agree with that as well, to be honest. I mean, these are some good predictions. Don't take this, as the Holy Grail. They could be wrong, but these are some pretty decent predictions, and most of it should be quite accurate. So we've covered all of that as well. In terms of price changes, for those of you that aren't aware, the likes of Foden, Trossard, Son, Saka, Kilman, and Dalot are predicted to go up today. Let's wait and see if that is the case. In terms of players going down, look at Reece James. That is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, it is to be expected, to be fair. Gordon, Gross, Zinchenko, Harrison, Rodrigo, and then the rest aren't really that relevant FPL-wise. So we've covered everything we need to know, really. And for, I think it was Patrick that asked, in terms of the Webster versus Dunk comparison, this is it. This season, Webster's been far better in terms of the underlying numbers, but both of them with 0 goals and 0 assists. But Webster was much better in terms of the bonus point system against Spurs. Really short sample size. I mean, small sample size. It's really difficult to judge, but they're both good options, and I still prefer Dunk, to be honest. Who are you planning on benching when you make your transfer? It would probably be Trippier or Mitrovic. Ante expected to miss the World Cup. Yeah, I saw that he was expected to miss the games before that, but that would be a big blow for France as well. I mean, he hasn't been fit for the last year or so, really. Yes, Zinchenko is still injured, Singh. He is a doubt for this week as well. Tomiyasu will start as the left back, I believe, yes. Start Edison or Ward this week. I probably would go for... That's a tough one. I think I'd go for Ward, but just about. Isak out for a -4 points. For who? I'd say Firmino. For a long-term pick, I'd go for Firmino. Dunk or Dyer? I would go for Dunk out of those two. -4, Trossard to play instead of Mitrovic this week and instead of Bailey next week. Yep, I would do it. Low-key regret going a Gross over Trossard. I mean, to be fair, I'm not sure when you got him in. When I got Gross in, he was looking the better of the two players. But under the new manager, I have to say Trossard in that game against Liverpool was absolutely electric, and I could see more of that to come. Not hat tricks, but big performances and some good returns. Yeah, Kante being out of the World Cup, that is a big shame. I mean, I hate seeing injuries. I mean, I'm already seeing a lot of Argentina players, with injury doubts, including Messi, although he should be fine, hopefully, fingers crossed. Di Maria, although hopefully as well, should be fine. Dybala, who's a major concern. It's, a big shame. Thank you, Connor. I appreciate it. I didn't love that clean trim. Thank you. Some people do prefer the longer hair, and to be honest, I do like growing out sometimes, but... yeah, I needed it. I think I definitely needed it. Thank you very much for the kind words, mate, and for the super chat. I appreciate it, Connor, and good luck this week. If you've got any questions, then be sure to let me know. Should I take a 4-point hit to bring in a 7.5 million striker for Isak? This is the thing, though. Exactly who do you choose? Tony, Wilson, Mitrovic is obviously injured, or a doubt anyway. Daka, not really too keen on him. Skamaka's not too shabby, but would you take a hit this week? Not really. I honestly wouldn't take a hit for them. I would have your bench players come in. Start Trippier or Andreas. I would start Trippier. $25 if you guess right. No need to bet, mate. But if you... Which 4 players with home fixtures I have in my starting 11? Only 1 try. Wait, $25 if you guess right which 4 players with home fixtures I have in my starting 11. Oh, yeah, that's a good question. I'm not sure. I'm going to have to pass there. Maybe later on I'll guess after the deadline's gone. Sell Mitrovic or Tony to bring in Kane. I mean, I was going to say Tony, but Mitrovic is still an injury doubt. My gut feeling is that Mitrovic will be available within the next week, and therefore I would sell Tony instead, but it's a big risk. James to Cucurella or Chilwell? I'd go for Cucurella, but honestly, both are rotation risks. Hi, Dylan, would you take a punt on Doherty? That's what I'm looking to do potentially, mate. And then I could go for Dunk in Game Week 12. If you just want someone for the next 2 and no hassle and not booking in transfers every week or so, just go for Dunk or Webster. Pope or Raya? I would go for Pope. Si Joaquin, soy de Argentina. Should I do Salah to Trossard and Mitrovic to Kane? I mean, look, they're both good duos, but yes, I would. I would do it. And I was looking to do something similar, but it would have been Son instead of Salah. Going Aspie over Webster. Hopefully it pays off. Good luck, mate. I mean, it could be well worth it. And Chelsea still have some decent fixtures. I see a clean sheet against Villa, but maybe not so much afterwards. Does Dybala start for Argentina? No, but he's really important to come off the bench. And he can start when someone like Di Maria is out, for example. The starting 11 for Argentina, just to say it really quickly, Martinez in goal. The right back is Molina. The centre backs are Otamendi and Romero. The left back is mainly Acuna, but sometimes Tagliafico comes in. That's a bit of rotation there. The same goes for the right-hand side with Molina and Montiel. Midfielders Paredes, De Paul and Lo Celso. That's always kind of a certainty. And then the forwards Di Maria, Lautaro Martinez and Di Maria. But it could also be Nico Gonzalez also slotting in sometimes. But as you can see, there's kind of a crux there already. Mount or Maddison, or do you have someone else in mind? Maddison is my favourite, but he's 1 yellow card away from suspension. 1 yellow card away from suspension. I can't speak quickly sometimes, but yes, he is my preference. What do you think of Estupinian to Webster and Emerson to Tosin? Honestly, look, Tosin has some really good fixtures for the next 2, but I don't trust Fulham defensively. And as for Webster, I like that transfer. But instead of Tosin, I would consider Kilman or Anderson or someone of that ilk instead. Mitrovic and James to Kane and... yeah, okay, so that was dealt with anyway. Too much spamming. Bowen or Saka or Trossard, considering I have Martinelli. Game Week 12 is currently looking like a 7-a-side team. Well, then you would reduce it to 6 if you go for Saka. So I would go for Saka after Game Week 12, not now. Trossard would be the one, Macy. So who would you pick for Reece James? Kilman, Dunk or Dyer? Out of those 3, it will be Kilman for me. Yeah, that would be my... I agree with you. Best defender only for Game Week 12, it has to be Dunk or Webster. You know, one of those Brighton defenders, and I would go for Dunk personally. Start one of Trippier, Dunk or Andreas. Thanks, I would go for Trippier. If you've got Pope, then I can understand going for Dunk instead, but honestly, I would go for Trippier. KDB to Son, James to Kilman with 2 free transfers, tempted to do a -4 with Andreas to Trossard. Honestly, look, I don't like getting rid of KDB for a hit, but it looks fantastic to me. I think that looks really good. Yeah, I would do it, even for a -4. I have a playing 11. What should I still go for, a Mitrovic to Scamacca or save a transfer? I would save a transfer. Should I sell Fofana? I have Cucurella and 0.6 million in the bank. Yeah, I would sell him if you can. He's going to be out for several weeks and months as well. Saludos desde México. Sí, Vincent. Nos veremos en el Mundial. Sería un muy lindo partido. Start Webster or Gay? Webster. Mitrovic for Jesus. Selling Mitrovic for Jesus does look really good this week, but he does blank in 12, so bear that in mind. Webster or Anderson for Game Week 11? For Game Week 11, I would say Webster. Start Soufal, Webster or Gay? I would start Soufal, in the hopes that he does start. I'm using the wild card. Should I keep Jesus instead of bringing Mitrovic since he's a doubt? Yeah, but the thing is, though, it depends how many City and Arsenal players you have, and I would rather have Jesus after Game Week 12, so in 13. But I have to say, Game Week 11 against Leeds looks fantastic. It just depends on your alternatives. You could also go for Firmino. He's a fantastic option for the next 5 or 6 game weeks, in my opinion. Then you could also, load that up with Kane and Haaland, or you could also have one of those budget strikers like Scamacca, who's still pretty decent. Thank you, Singh. I appreciate it. And thank you, Mayclack, as well. Mayclack or Mayclack? Okay, I don't want to butcher your name any longer. Start Mitrovic or Andreas, and Justin Anderson, Mitrovic, Anderson, who first sub? I would start Mitrovic, and in terms of first sub, it would be Andreas Pereira. Well, out of those that you mentioned, though, oh, no, you did say Andreas, I think, but you just said it twice. Yeah, Andreas. Bench KDB or Mitrovic? Don't bench KDB, honestly. I'd rather bench Mitrovic instead, although it could backfire. Should I start Pope or Ward? Up to you, mate. I'm going for Pope. Jesus and Saka to Kane and Eze? No. I would not sell those Arsenal players this week. I would sell them next week, if anything. Let's bring up my team again, by the way, and I think I'm going to make a transfer. So it's going to be either Dunk or Doherty coming in for me. It's going to be an interesting one. I really back Spurs for the clean sheet against Everton. Not so much for Brighton against Brentford, but I really like the Game Week 12 fixture, which is what I'm aiming for. So a really difficult week this week. You know, not that many defenders to choose from. And quickly this season has gone from big at the back to just none at the back, really, apart from Cancelo and Trippier. So it's kind of slim pickings here. And also, I've got the injury out of Mitrovic. So, just for context, this is how my elite team is right now. Pope in goal, Trippier, Cancelo, Kilman in the defence, Maddison, Son, Zaha, Martinelli, Haaland captain with Mitrovic and Tony up front. And if Mitrovic were to miss out, it would be Andreas Pereira coming in. My other sub would be it would be Anderson. Reece James is pretty much ruled out for this week, and he could be out for the rest of the year too. Ward will be on my bench, although you could arguably go for him over Pope. But I think I'm going to stick with something like this. However, if I do go for Doherty, he would come into the starting 11, and the one to miss out would probably be Trippier. And I'm not that keen on it, to be honest, but there you go. Thank you, Sophia. I appreciate it. And thank you, Ahmed. Thank you very much. Start Sufal, Webster, or Anderson. Sorry, I would go for Webster. Best midfielder under 6 million. I'm mainly looking at Xhaka, Almiron, or Eze, and I think I would go for. I think I'd go for Almiron or Eze. Yeah. Thoughts on Bernardo Silva? He's been a decent option so far this season, but would I go for him over Foden? No. Saka? No. And then you look at the other C assets. So he is a good choice, but I think there's better. James out till when? We don't know for sure yet, but he could be out for the rest of the year. We need to see what the new scan says and what the specialist for Reece James says over the weekend. What does the free hit do? It gives you a team exactly for one game week. Then it reverts back to what you had the week before that. And there are budget restrictions and stuff like that, but the free hit is a team for one game week only. KDB and Reece to Son and Dyer looks pretty good to me. Obviously, KDB can always backfire, but really good team. Captain, Kane or Haaland, both great, completely up to you, but I'm going for Haaland myself. Creswell is a good one-week punt, yes, but not that confident of a West Ham clean sheet, actually. Dalot or Trippier, I'd go for Trippier. Romero Ricard off the Malpai Black Arts, I mean, I do like Romero more because, you know, he plays for my national team, but if it wasn't for that, I would absolutely hate the guy. And Malpai, you know, let's not even mention him. Should I sell for Fana? I have Cucurella and 0.6 million in the bank. Like I said to you earlier, yes, I would. Is Martial back? I think he is available and he's going to be in the squad, but I don't think he starts. It will be Rashford, I think. Bench one, Tony or Mitrovic? I would rather bench Mitrovic this week because of the injury doubt. Is Xhaka a realistic FPL option? Yes, I think so. But with Arsenal, I'd rather go for Saka, Jesus, Martinelli, Ben White, Saliba. So I still think he's not quite there. But in terms of his price and below in the midfield, he's probably the best, or one of the best anyway. Best Arsenal defender, I think Ben White, but Saliba is also pretty good. Updates on Mitrovic, like I covered a few times earlier in this stream, he is still a doubt for this week, but he has been training recently. Start two of Cancelo, Trippier and Chilwell. I would start Cancelo and Trippier, but of course, if Chilwell does start against Villa, there is a good chance of clean sheets and also of attacking returns. Should I start Mitrovic or Trippier? It's completely up to you, mate. I am going for Mitrovic myself. That's what I would do. Start Andreas or Arsenal's Gabriel? Probably Arsenal's Gabriel. Reece James is out, then why are you not shipping him out? I am. I haven't done my transfer yet. Patience. Dyer or Kilman? I would rather go for Kilman. Is it safe to start Pope and Trippier? Not necessarily. I think Newcastle assets can do well this week, but double Newcastle defence isn't the greatest against United, who actually have averaged, I think, 3 goals per versus Newcastle at home in the last few years. Should I sell McAllister for Eze and take a -8 hit to bring him and take -4? I wouldn't. No. I would just keep McAllister right now. No, I wouldn't do that. Thoughts on Totti at 3.9 million? He could be a good option for the long term. He's another one. Yep. Trippier or Maddison starting? To start Maddison. Will Mendy start this week? I think Kepa starts. Take a -4 for Gross to Trossard. What do you think? I don't think you necessarily need to take a hit this week, but Trossard is the better option, and it could be worth the -4. But just bear in mind, Trossard's mainly there for the next 2 game weeks. Will he pay off the -4 hit in time for those 2 game weeks, really, which is when you want him for? That's what you need to ask yourself, and it is risky. Dylan Ben White's in the England squad in the World Cup if James misses. I don't think so, because you've got Trippier, who probably will be the starter if James isn't. Trent is also kind of in the reckoning, although with his current form, I don't think so. You've also got Kyle Walker who can play there. So no, I think Ben White should be in the squad because for me, personally, I think he's better than most England centre-backs with the exception of Stones maybe and perhaps Tomori. He should be in the squad. You know, he's better than Cody, Mings, Dyer, you know, whoever you want to name, Maguire. In the right-back position, he's better than some of the players in that position too. So he should be in it, but I'm not sure. Yeah, for the long term, Farhad, Dyer. You know, just keep it simple as Dyer. Because I think Doherty starts the next 2, but doesn't afterwards. And with Perisic, I think he starts this week, but not the weeks afterwards, basically. So, Dyer. First on the bench, Andreas or Mings? I would go for Andreas. Is Mitrovic likely to start? I wouldn't say likely, but there is a chance. Start Pope or Ward? I'd go for Pope. I mean, you can see on my team as well. Should I transfer James or play one of Gay or Justin, or who to transfer? I would transfer out James, to be fair. To be fair, you could play Justin, but I would transfer out James and I would go to maybe Kilman, or I would go for a Spurs defender like Dyer if you want someone long term. KDB or Son this week? I would go for this week, Son. I don't want Perisic to start, to be honest. Son's output is almost down to 0. Yeah, that is a good point. And that's maybe another reason why Perisic hasn't started recently. I mean, just think about it. Son's getting returns when Perisic isn't on the pitch against Leicester, against Frankfurt. Why Pope over Ward? Because I don't see any of them keeping a clean sheet, and I think Pope has a higher ceiling. That's pretty much it. Great loss for England if James misses the World Cup. Yes, but England have a lot of good right-backs as well, and Trippier is the best right-back so far this season from the England right-backs, along with Ben White, you could argue. But of course, in terms of quality, I do agree. Reece James is a miss. He's the best one. Thoughts on Aubameyang? He's a good choice, but I do prefer Firmino at a similar price bracket. Webster, Dyer, or Doherty? For the next 2, it would be Webster, I think. Long-term is Dyer. Is it safe to lock in? Well, yeah, I don't think we're going to get any news, really. I mean, famous last words, but is Webster a safe option? For the next 2, yes. Not long-term with the fixtures. James, Salah, Mitrovic out and Dunk, Trossard, Kane in. Honestly, it looks great to me, mate. Nunez or Firmino for the next 2? I prefer Firmino. Transfer James 2. Like I said many times in the stream, I'd go to a Crystal Palace defender, Wolves defender, Spurs defender. It just depends on who you have or don't have already. So it's just hard for me to say. I don't know your team. Tomiyasu or Ben White? White as an FPL asset. KDB and Mitrovic to Trossard and Kane for free, or bring KDB to Son? I will do the 2-3 transfers, KDB and Mitrovic to Trossard and Kane. Start Pope or Alisson? I would start Pope. Captain Kane or Haaland? Up to you, mate. I'd go for Haaland. Start Mendy or Pickford? I would go for Mendy just in case he starts. Looking for early transfer next game week, have Jesus, Cancelo, Martinelli. Yeah, I mean, we've got the Tuesday deadline anyway. Makes sense. And Haaland, best Jesus replacement? Yeah, I think Firmino's up there. And another one to consider, Scamacca. If Mitrovic is fit as well, can't go wrong, but I would say Firmino right now. Start Mitrovic or Andreas? I personally would go for Mitrovic, and that's what I'm doing. James to Kilman, here we go. Not a bad shout. Hopefully, Wolves can actually show some improvement. What about Ben White? I'm looking to go for him in Game Week 13. It makes no sense to go for him now for me because he blanks in 12. Who to bench, Andreas or Tony? I'd bench Andreas. Would you bench boost? No, I would not bench boost this week. I mean, it's not a bad bench, but not for me. Is it high risk to captain Kane over Haaland? It's a risk whatever you do, to be honest. They're both quality players and they can go ballistic. Kane has the better fixture. He's in great form. He's on penalties, of course. But Haaland is just on another planet right now in terms of goal scoring. Look, it is a risk, but it could be worth it. Kane is a good shout. Callum Wilson or Edouard Wilson? Afraid of Wolves defender, though, might concede. Yeah, fair enough, but I personally think Brighton could concede this week as well. None of those defences are that great. We don't have many options, let's face it. We're kind of just picking from a bad bunch. But yeah, Dunk is a better pick, I'd say, over the next 2, but not beyond that. Kilman or Webster in for James? I'd say Kilman long term. James to Tete? Not for me, but not a bad shout either. You know, the next two are really good for Fulham, but I wouldn't do it. Dylan, if I skip Haaland as captain, do I go for Saka or Jesus? I would favour Saka, but to be honest, both are great. Start one, Trippier, Mings, Dallo. I would go for Trippier. Are you sure Mitrovic will play this week? No, I never said that at all. I'm starting him because there is a chance he plays. How do double game weeks work, Dylan? You will see it. So there will be certain game weeks where, you know, we'll have a game at the weekend, for example, and then one during midweek, and then both games will fall under the same number. So game week 27, for example, and that will be a double game week. We've got some games in the midweek right now, but that isn't game week 11. That is game week 12. So that is not a double game week. And basically, how does it work? So if you have a player with 2 games in a single week, you know, under the same number, then they will get points for both games for that game week. And that's why, you know, there's a big appeal to get double game week players, also to play the bench boost with a double game week, and also triple captain, free hit as well, potentially. Thank you, Connor. I'm not going to do it, but I don't know which I'd pick. Yeah, I get what you mean, John. Yeah. That's a good point, yeah. Mitrovic to Welbeck. Not for me. He hasn't scored a goal this season, and I don't expect that to necessarily change anytime soon. Tony or Skamaka for next game week? I'd say Skamaka. Nico or Soufal first sub? I'd go for Soufal. Wilson or Anderson? I'd go for Wilson. Why don't you like Doherty over Webster at Dunk? Tech, I mean, I never said... Sorry. Jesus Christ. I never said I don't like Doherty. I literally put in one of the poll options as my transfer plans, bringing in Doherty this week, and then making the transfer to Dunk next week. So I actually like Doherty. And I might even go for him. If you check my transfer section right now, Doherty's actually in here for Mr. James. Would you transfer in a player who plays against Nottingham Forest? Yes. I mean, Trossard this week, next week, Dunk, for example. Yes. Will Totti start? Yes, I think he will. Not afraid of Mitrovic one-pointer. It's a possibility, Singh, but to be honest, I'm willing to take the risk, basically. Will Daka start or Vardy? I'd say Daka, but honestly, I have no idea, and that's why I don't like Daka as an option. Madison or Son? Son this week. Which Harry to start, Kane or Maguire? Kane, of course. Any Liverpool or Chelsea players worth considering for the Arsenal City blank? Firmino from Liverpool. From Chelsea, you're probably looking at maybe Koulibaly if you want to nail Chelsea defender, and also Aubameyang up front. So basically Firmino and Aubameyang is kind of slim pickings across the rest of the squad right now. And I agree with what you said. Bruno Fernandes worth the price? No chance. I would rather go for Sterling. What if Mitrovic would sub in only second half? Then it is what it is, but I'm willing to take the risk. Start Ward or Pickford? I would go for... Good question. I think I'll go for Pickford, but I need to reassess that. Trossard or Bowen? Trossard. Trent replacement until the World Cup? I think Anderson as a Palace defender, and he gives you a lot of money. Which Arsenal player to captain? Martinelli, Saka or Jesus, one of those three. And if I had to pick, it would probably be Saka. But it's really close. Captain Salah, Game Week 12. Let's wait and see what he shows in the Premier League in Game Week 11. But it could be an option, of course, yeah. He's probably the standout. Gay or Justin or Trippier? This week, Trippier. Do you think Leicester will get relegated? No, but there is a chance, of course. Should I start Veltman or Trippier? I would start Veltman. Maybe, yeah, maybe Veltman. It's a tricky one. Perisic or Doherty? Doherty for the next two. Trossard or Zaha? Trossard for the next two. We won't get Mitrovic injury news before the Game Week 12 deadline. Yeah. Move him on for Firmino. That is a good point. That is a good point. I do like Firmino, to be honest. I think he's a fabulous option. Yeah, I mean, I have no problems with it, Singh, to be honest. It's just really 50-50 what your plans are going forward. One downside for me getting Firmino, for example, is then not having the funds potentially for the likes of Foden, Ben White, etc. And that's why I may not go there. But to be honest, I really like Firmino. Also on captaincy for Bowen, I wouldn't go there. Southampton are poor, but Bowen gets most of his goals at the London Stadium, at home. I've got Gay already, that's fair enough. Sagar, then you can go for Kilman, potentially. Or a Spurs defender like Dyer. Bazanu or Henderson? Probably Henderson. Which team do you support? I support Arsenal. Trippier or Ben White? I'd rather start Trippier this week, but if you already have Pope, then you could diversify your defence. If not Leicester, then who do you think will get relegated? I think Southampton, and that's something I've said even in pre-season. So Southampton, Nottingham Forest now, and the other team could be another newly promoted side like Bournemouth or you're looking at Fulham. But yeah, I think Nottingham Forest and Southampton are going down at the moment. Mitrovic plays, we don't know. I think he will, but I could be wrong, of course. I would go for Pope. You can see it in my team. Well, maybe not now, to be fair to you. Trippier or me? I go for Trippier. Not today, but can you set your lineup beforehand but pretend to miss the deadline with a horrible fake trolling lineup? Of course I can do that, but I don't want to mislead people. But, you know, to prevent mass copying, I sometimes, you know, I show alternative picks, and I've done that in UCL Fantasy, for example. I literally say it specifically. It's not my team. I'm showing you some different picks. I don't want people to copy. It's as simple as that. Kilman for James or Son for De Bruyne. This week, I mean, the one with a high upside, obviously, is Son for De Bruyne, but I would go for Kilman for James. It's a good long-term solution. You can bring in Son next week or do something else. Okay, I've Gay. What if I choose Dunk over Kilman? That's fine. For the next two, I'd rather go for Dunk anyway. Yeah, that looks good to me. Is Barnes a solid pick for this game week? He's a decent pick, but I'm not a big fan of him at the moment. My 6 players aren't playing next game week, then you've got to start trimming it down or playing your free hit potentially. Yes, Tomiyasu will play, I believe. He'll play as the left back. If not, it will be Ben White. Sorry, not Ben White. It will be Tierney. Ben White will play as the right back. It will be Saliba, Gabriel as usual as the centre backs. I think Tomiyasu plays as the left back. Fair enough, Kat. I mean, I could do it, but I'm not going to do it, I think. Should I sell Aubameyang? I don't see a reason to sell him, to be honest. Play Soufal or me? I'd rather play Soufal, but I'm not sure if he starts. That's the big problem. So we've got literally 20 minutes left for the deadline, so I am going to make a move. What it will be, I'm not sure. And I'm going to check Twitter very quickly, by the way. If you see anything, then be sure to let me know. But I am going to be locking in my team literally within the next 10 or 20 minutes. Yeah, it's going to be a tricky one. Very, very tricky one this week. So, yeah, I don't see anything on Twitter right now. I'm literally scouring the internet. This is not ideal. Yeah, nothing on Twitter so far. Doherty or Dyer for James. If you want something for the next two, Doherty. Longer term, Dyer. Start Perisic or Andreas. I'd go for Perisic, sorry. Dylan Nunez, Firmino or Jota. Firmino. I think Firmino's looking incredible right now. As a Liverpool fan, should I captain Salah? I would not captain Salah. I mean, look, he's a good option. I think he could do well against Cancelo, but I wouldn't captain him. Yeah, Jesus, I think, is a better option this week for the captaincy. But, to be honest, I still think Kane, Son, and then you're looking at Haaland as the best options this week. Trippier, Almiron, Diego Costa, start one. Trippier. What else do we have? James to Doherty and Daka to Firmino for a -4 this week. Mitrovic first bench. Looks great to me, to be honest. I think I'd do it. You don't need to sell Daka, though, for a hit. So James to Doherty's fine, and then you can save the other transfer. Start Ward or Sanchez. I'd go for Sanchez, personally. Yeah. Thoughts on Pedence? Yeah, he's 5.5 million, but Wolves don't score enough goals. I think they've got, 3 or 4 goals scored this season. It's just not good enough. I wouldn't go for Pedence. I'd only consider Totti, Kilman, and a few others like Johnny, or Jose Sarr in goal. I would not go for an attacker. Keep or sell Callum Wilson? I'd probably keep. Thank you, Leanne. I appreciate it. Thank you very much for the kind words. Should I start and risk Mitrovic or play me instead? I would start Mitrovic. Dylan, is Silva a good option for James because I'm looking to bring in a Chelsea defender? Yeah, if you want a Chelsea defender, then yes, Silva's a good option. Or Koulibaly, Cucurella. Those would probably be the best ones. Cucurella, of course, being the big rotation risk. Tech, like I said, I go for Pope. Cucurella or Koulibaly long term? Probably Koulibaly because he's more nailed. James replacement for the next 2 free game weeks. For the next 2 or 3, it'll be Dunk or Webster. Start Mitrovic or Andreas. I would go for Mitrovic. Pope or Ward? Pope. Best James replacement. I would probably go for next 2 game weeks. Is either Perisic, Doherty, or Dunk, Webster. One of those lot. It's completely up to you. Longer term, you're looking at Anderson or Kilman, in my opinion. Haaland or Jesus captain, up to you, but I'd go for Haaland. Kane instead of Haaland captain, once again, up to you, but you know my answer. Start Gross or Andreas, I'd go for Gross. Start 2 of Trippier, Mitrovic, Andreas Dallo, I would go for Trippier, Mitrovic. I am now going to be locking in my team, and I think I'm going to bring in a Spurs defender. It's going to be either Doherty or Perisic, and I'm going to put a little poll out now. See what you guys think, actually. So I'm just Do this very quickly. Doherty, Perisic, Dunk, and Webster. Yeah, I think those are the 4 for me. I'm so tempted to do KDB to Son right now. I can see what you mean. I think KDB, he's an exceptional player, the best premium midfielder so far this season, but I do understand why you're doing it. Perisic is a James replacement, yep. Although I'm not sure if Perisic starts beyond Game Week 11. KDB or Son? This week, Son. Long term, KDB's my favourite. Start Nico Williams or sell Reece James for Ben White. I would probably get Ben White, and long term, it's a good transfer. Just bear in mind in Game Week 12 he blanks. James to Webster, Trent to Doherty, spend the money, gain for a -4, or keep it until next week. If you've got an 11, Vincent, it's fine. You don't necessarily need to do that. It looks good, by the way, the transfers you got. You found it strange how this year's defense seems like last season's forwards. Yeah, this is the thing about football and FPL. Things change so quickly. And, we've got short-term memories. That's a good point. And look at this, by the way. All of you kind of favouring the Spurs defenders, and Doherty is just about leading Perisic, 33% to 32%. So quite an even vote there. Between Koulibaly or Silva, who's more nailed? At the moment, if I had to hazard a guess, it would be Koulibaly. Thoughts on Watkins and Solanke? Not really a big fan of either. Solanke's cheaper, and he's an enabler. That's what I like about him. Bournemouth are not really that good offensively. Villa are just all over the place, and they should be doing much better. And I think Watkins will score more points, but does he justify the extra million or so? Not in my opinion. So honestly, I'm not a big fan of either, and I would look elsewhere. Skamaka, for example, Firmino, etc. Dyer, Doherty, Dunk, Webster, or Kilman. Once again, long term, I would be looking at the likes of Kilman, or maybe I'd look at Dyer. If you're looking for someone for the next 2, I'd maybe take a punt on someone like Doherty or Perisic or something like that. Who's the best Spurs defender? Long term, Dyer. For the next 2, I'd say Doherty. Any spamming, by the way, once again, I hate to say it, but it will not be answered. Tony or Jesus? This week, Jesus. Is it better to replace James for a Chelsea or Arsenal defender? I think Arsenal, just bear in mind Game Week 12 blank, and I'd say Ben White or Saliba. Any United players to consider? Yes, I would say Anthony, but more so in Game Week 14. Rashford, and the main one for me is Dalot in the back line. Son captain, not a bad shout. He's in my top 5 this week, but I wouldn't go there myself, and I'll show you very shortly. He is my vice captain at the moment. Bench or start Andreas? Depends who for, but I'm benching him. Start Tony, Soufal, or Andreas? I'd start Tony. Robinson or Stupinian? Probably Stupinian. Is Foden for KDB a good idea? I wouldn't do that, really. I would bring in Foden in Game Week 13, but ultimately they both blank in 12, so it doesn't make sense for me. I know why you're doing it, because Foden has done better at Anfield recently, but I don't think it's necessary. Start Sanchez or Ward? Sanchez. Bench Kilman or Perisic? Probably Kilman. It's really tough, though. Eduardo or Firmino? Firmino. Transferred KDB to Son, Maddison or Zaha? Or do I put Zaha in for Tony? Zaha, because Maddison's 1 yellow card away from suspension, and that, it would always be at the back of my mind. But Trippier or Cancelo? Cancelo. Matt Target, a good shout? Yes, but I prefer Trippier and Pope. I just wouldn't go for him as a result. Start Mitrovic or Andreas? And Mitrovic. Dunk versus Webster? Really close, and we showed the stats. Webster has been better this season, but I still go for Dunk. Thank you, Park. Hopefully I got it right. Siddhant, I'll call you. Hopefully I got your name right. Should I bring back Mitrovic? I wouldn't bring in Mitrovic this week. I would wait until he's confirmed fit, and then we can start to bring him in. Dylan, I just saw James for Dyer simply to eliminate Spurs rotation frustration. That makes sense. Long term, like I said, Dyer's the best one. So I do agree with you on that. What I'm looking to do, so just to give you a bit of context for those of you that are new to the stream. So if we go to FPL.team, in Game Week 11, what I could do is get Doherty in for Reece James. Still, I would have 2 free transfers in Game Week 12, and then I would get Lewis Dunk in for Doherty. Have a full 11 anyway, and obviously get a better fixture. And then in Game Week 13 with 2 free transfers, I would then bring in Ben White in for Lewis Dunk, and I would also bring in Phil Foden, potentially for one of Maddison, Wilfred Zaha, etc. So I've got plenty of options, as you can see, and I do like these plans, and I'm taking short-term punts, which typically I don't like doing, especially with the back line, but I think it could work out in my favour playing the fixtures. Will Mitrovic play? I believe so, but honestly, we just don't know yet. Christian Romero over Dyer? Not a bad shout, but I still prefer Dyer. I think he's a bit more nailed on and less injury prone. Would you captain Kane if you had him? I don't think so, but I'd be tempted. I won't lie to you. Mount or Trossard? Trossard. Start White or Share? Ben White. Start Ward or Pope. Try not to spam the chat, Linford. I would go for Pope. Mount or Trossard. Yep, just answer that. KDB out for Son. I mean, honestly, it is a good transfer, but KDB can always come back to bite you, and I do prefer him overall. Pope or Kepa? Still Pope for me. So, yep, that is it. And by the way, in terms of the poll, Doherty has taken a commanding lead. Maybe not commanding, but he has definitely stretched it out. That's interesting. I will be making my transfer very soon. Start Andreas or Almiron. I would start Andreas. Start Gay or Trippier. I would start Trippier. Shabam says, what do you think about Azpilicueta? Yes, he is versatile, but I don't think he forms part of Chelsea's best defence and lineup. And also, I think there will still be rotation. Thank you, Gamer Noob. If I keep James, will I lose money? Well, he's going to go down in price today. Very likely. You know, so many people are transferring him out. So, yes, you will lose value in him, but it's not a big deal. I would sell him if you can anyway. Castagna is a really good shout, Lingani. Despite Leicester being poor defensively, I think that's a great shout. Start Trossard or Wilson. I would start Trossard. Cucurella or Dyer. Son, says Lager. Yeah, Captain Son. I mean, look, it's a great shout, but once again, it's completely up to you. I'm not going to do it, I think. Start Ward or Sanchez. Thank you, Cohen. I appreciate it. Let's wait and see if the advice isn't too shabby. Who to replace with James? I've got Perisic, Trippier and Cancelo. I would go for Anderson from Crystal Palace, Dyer or Kilman. Any of those is fine if you're looking for someone long-term. Start who? Mitrovic or Andreas Pereira? Mitrovic for me. Best replacement for Trent? Once again, like I said with people earlier, you're looking at one of Perisic or Doherty, Brighton defender like Dunk or Webster. But if you just want someone long-term and forget about it, Anderson or Kilman is fine. Martinelli or Kane captain? I would go for Kane. Should I swap Super for Doherty? I probably would, Jono. But just bear in mind, Doherty won't be nailed on long-term, I think. Welbeck or Wilson? Wilson. If James is out, and if so, yeah, it looks like it. James is going to be out potentially for the rest of the year. Let's wait and see. Bench him this week and play Saliba and get 2 free transfers. Yeah, just bear in mind, Eric, you will lose value. He's going to be going down today in price or maybe tomorrow. Should we play Mitrovic and bench Andreas? It's completely up to you, but I'm doing that. Demantis. Start Trippier or Nico Williams? I would go for Trippier. Trossard or Welbeck? I would go for Trossard. Son versus KDB this week? Son has to be the clear winner because of the fixture. It does depend on a few other factors, but Son. Trossard in for Maddison? For the next 2, yes, but to be honest, I think it's a luxury transfer, and I'd only do it if Maddison is suspended with 1 more yellow. Brighton defender versus Palace. For the next 2, Brighton defender. Longer term, it's Palace. Sanchez or Pope? I would go for Sanchez this week. Veltman option for Reece James replacement. Thoughts? I mean, look, we talk about Webster and Dunk. He's also a really good choice. Why not bench boost? It makes no sense to bench boost this week, mate. Not in my opinion. I just save it for a double game week or a... Well, I wasn't going to say a blank game week. Definitely not for a bench boost. But yeah, a double game week or maybe we'll have better opportunities down the line. Not for me this week. Cucurella or Romero? I do prefer Cucurella from those 2. Trent out, Doherty in until the World Cup. Doherty won't start every single week, I think, until the World Cup. So bear that in mind. Bench Cancelo or Trippier? A Trippier. Start Andreas or Solanke? I would start Andreas. What if Mitrovic came on as a cameo? It can happen, of course. I'm not ruling that out. Okay, so I'm going to make my transfer. Yes. Time traveler here. Helen Blanks, good luck. I disagree, but let's wait and see. I am going to make my transfer now, and I think it's going to be a Spurs defender coming in. So yeah, one of Doherty, Dyer, or Perisic. So yeah, I'm going to check Twitter very quickly, see if we get anything, but to be honest, I don't think that will be the case. Yeah, no updates here in terms of the Premier League. So, yeah, that is pretty much it. Okay, I think I'm going to be locking in right now. We've got 8 minutes left, so be sure to do that as well. I've got the wrong thing, haven't I? I had a feeling I did. So, yeah, this is the transfer screen. All right, in terms of how we're doing, so thank you very much to everyone who was watching, by the way. At one point, we had over 600 people. Thank you very much. And we got to over 200 likes. And we are also making some huge progress towards 16,000 subscribers. We are around 200 away. So let's keep on smashing the like button. We're literally 6 away from the next kind of mini milestone and getting to the next 100. And then before pushing on towards 16,000. So thank you very much to everyone. I am now going to lock in my team. I'm literally it's just a matter of margins. And it's literally going to be It's going to be a 50-50 decision, ultimately. So let's wait and see. Still debating in my head, and yeah, I think in the end, do I play FIFA? No, I don't. Go for Dyer, says Eric. Yeah, I mean, that's the safest pick. I do agree with you there. But I do like the Dyer, or should I say the Doherty/Perisic upside, so to speak. I'm going to stick with my original gut feeling, which is something, you know, I rarely do. I think I'm going to go for Doherty. And, you know, if, you know, push comes to shove, I can, you know, transfer him out next week anyway for Dunk and then get Ben White later on and Foden in the midfield, which is what my long-term plan kind of is. So it does seem weird, and I might be juggling between defenders every single week, but I think I'll get Doherty in. I think that will be the way I'm going to go. He's a mega differential, 0.4%. I'm hoping he starts, and I think he will. That Man United game I'm not expecting too much from, but this is the Everton game where I really want, you know, big things from him. So I think James to Doherty is the way I'm going to go. It's really risky, I know, but, you know, why not take a risk here? And I think Trippier will be the one making way, which is obviously very risky. He's only blanked twice this season, but I'm going to back my gut here. And Trippier will be first on my bench, I think. Andreas second. Although you could arguably start Trippier over Mitrovic with all the doubts surrounding him this week. But this is my team for the week. So, yeah, we've got it on screen. Pope in goal, Doherty, Cancelo, Kilman in the back line, Maddison, Son, Zaha and Martinelli, with Haaland captain, Mitrovic and Tony up front. I've still got one free transfer, and I will be using one more, I think, in Game Week 12, doing Doherty to Dunk, something like that. And then in Game Week 13, Ben White and Foden are the two players I really want to bring into my team. And I'm also looking at the likes of Saliba, Bukayo Saka, and a few others. So let me know what you think, but let's wait and see. Let's wait and see. Should be interesting. Sell or keep Mitrovic, FPL Diamond. I would hold, but it just depends on your team situation. Is a Spurs defender captaincy material? I wouldn't go that far because Everton still could score. I'm not like 100% convinced of a clean sheet. And also, Perisic and Doherty could come off quite early. Yeah, he might not be a differential anymore, but I think his ownership is still low. Yeah, 0.6% ownership. I mean, yeah, he's still a differential, mate. Come on. Yeah, a lot of people might be going for him, you know, in FPL, you know, on Twitter, on YouTube, but his ownership is still ridiculously low. So I still think he's a mega differential. Thank you, Largo. I appreciate it, and good luck with you. Good luck with your team as well. Thank you, Singh. That's what I did. I mean, I just had like a eureka moment before starting the stream, and I decided to go with it. If it doesn't go right, then there you go. Would I captain Doherty, says Coopsy Coop. Yes, you want to boost your rank, but look, it's completely up to you, and if you have a good feeling about it, go for it. But I personally wouldn't captain him. I think that's a step too far for me. Start Gay or Trippier? Trippier. Start Trippier or Justin? Trippier. Start Saliba or Stupinian? I would back Saliba. Mitro to Kane and downgrade James to Trent? Definitely, Adil. 100%. That looks great. Thank you, Jasabi, for the kind words. Let's wait and see how it does. What about Cucurella? He's a good like-for-like replacement for James, but I would expect heavy rotation for Chelsea in that position. Andres Pereira or Tony? I would go for Tony. Start Sessegnon or Trippier? Sessegnon. Actually, no, sorry. No. I just remembered. I mean, yes, he does play for Spurs, but I don't think he starts this week. I'd go for Trippier. Has Sufal been dropped from the starting 11? Yes, he has in recent weeks. It has been Carrere playing instead. Rashford or Anthony? I still prefer Rashford, but Anthony, of course, has been better in the last three. Top three teams with the best fixture run. We covered this earlier in the kind of the fixture ticker. So I think Wolves are up there, along with the likes of Fulham and Bournemouth. I think those are the top three. Thank you, FPL Diamond. I appreciate it. Thank you for the kind words. Captain, which of Maddison, Tony, Trossard, Martinelli? Probably Martinelli for me. But I do like Trossard too, I will admit. Start Trippier versus Billing. Trippier. Hola, Dylan. Coutinho o Andreas en la banca. En el banco pondría a Coutinho en este momento. Así que pondría a Andreas Pereira en la alineación. Start Trippier or Sessegnon? I'd go for Trippier. What do you guys reckon? Andreas Pereira or Ivan Toney? I answered that question, Danny, but obviously if you want other people to answer, that's fair enough. I would go for Toney. Mitrovic or Andreas start? Mitrovic. Zaha captain? Not a bad shout against Leicester, but not for me. Is Doherty nailed on? For the next game week or two, I'd say so. Beyond that, no. Yes, I'm starting Mitrovic. Start Mitrovic or Andreas Pereira? Mitro, in my opinion. When are you planning to bring in Trossard? I might not be able to at this point. I think I'll just keep my midfield as it is for now. It just depends, though. If Son continues to stink it up in the Premier League, then yes, I would be open to getting Trossard in next week, and I could change my mind. Reed, Pereira, or Tony? Tony, like I said, mate. I said it a few times. Trippier or Anderson? Trippier. Raya or Sanchez? I would go for Sanchez. Start Perisic over Cucurella? Yes, I would. Why Pope instead of Ward? I don't expect any of them to keep a clean sheet, and I think Pope has a higher ceiling. Do you think a -4 next week is viable, even for Gameweek 13 wildcarders? Yes, I think it is still viable, but I wouldn't be overly crazy with hits, in my opinion. Any team news? No. Any leaked stuff or whatever? No, nothing. Bench Solanke, Trossard, or Zaha? I would bench Solanke. Captain Kane or Haaland? Both great. Back your gut. I think Kane is a great differential captaincy option, but I'm personally going for Haaland. Hey Dylan, hope you're well. Who should I bench? Firmino, Perisic, Tony, and Sufar. I would bench Sufar. Hopefully you're well too. Going Webster for Gameweek 12 and White in Gameweek 13, so I keep rolling the second transfer. Yeah, I'm doing something a bit similar, Sing. Hopefully it pays off for us, and I wish you all the best of luck. Like, share, subscribe, support your quality channel and a brilliant host as you get brilliant quality on a consistent basis. Thank you, Up Diamond. I appreciate your kind words. Thank you, Jay, as well. Gracias por la ayuda. Buena suerte en la jornada, amigo. Igualmente, Martín. Mucha suerte y veremos lo que pasa. Thanks and good luck. Thank you, Lungani. 1 minute to go. Yes, we've literally got 30 seconds to go. Thank you, Roy, as well. Good luck to everyone watching. RITU, Trippier, Gay, Sufal. Who to start? I would personally go for Trippier. I want to captain Martinelli, but don't have the guts. Honestly, if you think he's going to score the most points, go for it, mate. You know, you got literally 15 seconds. Go for it if you are backing it. Praying for a green arrow. Good luck, Joaquin. Hopefully you get it, and hopefully everyone else watching does as well. Thanks, went with my gut and swapped Salah for Kane. Yep. Eze coming in, a nice differential too. I like the look of it. Also good long-term fixtures. And Eze is probably my second favourite Palace midfielder / attacker, even over Edouard. Thank you as well, Xerxia, and good luck. We have now locked in. That is the deadline, and we have covered everything we need to know. And thank you everyone who voted in the poll, everyone who obviously subscribed to the channel members, the super chats, and also everyone who smashed the like button and subscribed. It was very busy at some point, obviously I appreciate that. And we are now ever closer to 16,000. We are literally 200 away. So let's keep on pushing. 4 subscribers away from the 800 mark, so to speak. So thank you very much. And we still got over 100 people watching. I'll try to entertain any last few comments and questions before wrapping up. Yeah, we are locked in, Harry and Singh. Good luck, RITU and Lager as well, Cylindra. Good luck. Buena suerte para vos también, Sefer. Buena suerte. Y sí, vamos a ver lo que pasa. Should be interesting. I still got my wild card. Do I have to use it before Gameweek 16? Well, yes. You can't stack it onto the second half of the season. So you get 2 wild cards per season. One for the first half, one for the second half. If you don't use it before Gameweek 16, it will then basically be dissolved and you will no longer have that first wild card. I would use it in Gameweek 13. Obviously, I don't know your team, but Gameweek 13 could be a good time to use it for you. Thank you, Charles. Good luck to you as well. Genius Gamer as well. Same with Yash. Cheers. No, I couldn't do Kane in. Didn't have the funds, so left James for next week, but did Trent to Doherty. Might be a blessing in disguise in the end. Let's wait and see. Thanks for keeping the chat clean and in order. Thank you, Lager. And likewise, the same goes for you and all the other mods for helping, because sometimes we get bots and also spammers and stuff, so thank you. Fantastic stream, last minute Maddison captaincy. Wow. Heart attack in the post. Good luck, John. Hopefully it pays off for you, mate. Obviously, I'd be more happier if Maddison got 20 points than if Haaland did. So hopefully it goes out well for you. Haaland blank incoming. I've seen a few people say that. Let's wait and see. I disagree. Have a good game, mate. Good night. Thank you, Kimpachi. Good night as well. Do you think Cucurella will blank? If he starts, I think he does get a return, but I don't see anything extraordinary, but I could be wrong. Gameweek 11, here we go. Exactly. Haaland captain, Salah vice. Good luck, Adil. Thanks, mate. Good team, but still going to use it next game week. Fair enough. James approaching a price for already. Exactly. You know, everyone's transferring him out. Everyone. Absolutely everyone. So, yeah, he's going to go down today. I'd be shocked if he doesn't. You know, we're literally talking about hundreds of thousands of people doing it within the day. And already, there was a good amount before. What about Tony? Well, I'm starting him. You know, I'm happy to keep him for now. I've got other fires to put out, other problems. Mitrovic, will he be available in Gameweek 11? If so, or if not, will he be available in 12? I also want to kind of juggle between these defenders and then ultimately bring in the likes of Foden, Saka, Ben White, etc. in Gameweek 13. And I think I should have captained Salah as he's at home after a hat-trick. Yeah, but it was, a 6-minute cameo, of course. It's really impressive to score a hat-trick in 6 minutes. It's a Champions League record, but you're up against Rangers who are already like 3 or 4-1 down. Like, yeah, I still think there's a lot more that Salah needs to do to prove, maybe not prove himself, but to gain our trust again. Need a Doherty blank this game week. I completely disagree. I mean, to be honest, I don't mind if Doherty blanks for obvious reasons, but let's wait and see. You know, from an FPL perspective, obviously, I do hope you are wrong. Do you think James is a must sell? I mean, I'd say he's not a must sell because I'm not a big fan of, you know, price rise and price falls. But what I would say, if there's ever a time to do early transfers, it's now, because we do have a short turnaround. We've got games on Tuesday. We've got another deadline to talk about. So in that case, you can do it. But I wouldn't say it's a must sell straight away. With a Tuesday deadline too, yeah, exactly. That is a good point. And that's why, you know, if I still had James going into Game Week 12, I would sell him straight away. But it doesn't mean you have to, basically. Is Gordon suspended for cars this week? I am not sure. I don't believe so. I need to double check that. Trippier top bins. That would be lovely. I got James for 6 million, so just hopes the double price drop isn't really fast. Yeah, and that's another thing to consider. If you got him in really early, it's not a big deal. Sessegnon and Perisic start this game week. Oh no. Hopefully not. Sorry to any Scottish people here that think Rangers would probably be in the relegation fight. Oh yeah, I think so as well. Obviously, some good Rangers teams in the past, they maybe would have done much better, but this Rangers team, not necessarily. Is Doherty nailed on? Not really. I think he'll start in the next two, but when Emerson's back, he will be back to the bench, I think. You think Son will do good? Yes, but I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't just blame it on Perisic, but I don't think they have a great connection, and Son tends to do better when Perisic is on the bench. Not sure the Salah hat-trick is such a spectacle. I agree. Obviously, look, a hat-trick in 6 minutes against anyone is impressive, but that doesn't mean he's suddenly amazing again. What's your predicted points? Well, according to FPL.team, if I just bring it up very quickly, it's 50. So not that high, actually. But yeah. So yeah, this is my final team with Doherty in. I made one free transfer, Reece James to Doherty, and I'm planning on potentially getting Duncan for Doherty next week, and then getting Ben White and Foden in Game Week 13 for Dunk, and also Wilfred Zaha potentially. Dylan, for Game Week 12, who would you prefer selling? Bowen for Trossard? Yeah, Bowen as Bournemouth and Trossard as City Game Week 13. If you're looking at Game Week 12 specifically, I would do Bowen to Trossard, but if you compare the two fixtures, Liverpool away and Bournemouth, compared to Trossard having Nottingham Forest at home and City, then I would rather have Bowen. But I do prefer Trossard as an FPL asset without thinking about fixtures and all of that. Hoping Tony Hall's tonight. Same here. That would be great. Trippier free kick goal, please. Yeah, I'll agree with you on that one. James out for who? If I already have Trippier, Cancelo, Doherty, Nico, I would probably go for Anderson or someone like Kilman. And also, I mean, you already got Doherty to be fair, so yeah, one of those two would be fine. Aspi or Chalobah would have been better replacements for James. I mean, they are good replacements, good suggestions, but I don't expect them to start week in, week out. That is my main concern. I want players who will start week in, week out. Obviously, you'll be like, well, then why do you get Doherty? Well, because I can also just do Doherty to Dunk next week, and I'm targeting this week as well. And I've got the 2 free transfers to enable me to do that. James Robertson differential. Like I said earlier, I love Robertson as an FPL option, but not this season, not right now. Far too much money. He's not getting enough clean sheets. Liverpool aren't looking that great overall. I think their attacking is still pretty good, and the underlying numbers and the performances just aren't there. And he's just come back from a long-term injury. Maybe not long-term, should I say, but he's come back from several weeks out. I think it'll be a low-scoring week. Same here. Robbo's a nice ideal, but if he starts, yeah, exactly. Let's see if he starts. Someone more to think about in Game Week 13 onwards, but against City, it's very unlikely he's going to get something. James for Dyer. Yeah, it's a good transfer. It's a good long-term move. Perisic was a big blow in UCL. I mean, I was surprised. I thought he would start. I was completely convinced he would. I think there's more to it than meets the eye. Even if he's fully fit, he was on the bench. It might be to do with the relationship with Son on the left-hand side. And look, Son did really well without Perisic. Same goes for the Leicester game. Perisic gets subbed off. Son comes on. Son scores a hat-trick. Fofana and James injured, more time for Chalobah. Yeah, look, I think Chalobah will get plenty of game time, but still not enough for me to really go for him as an FPL option and really, really trust him long term. But I do get what you mean. Just checked Gordon and McTominay on 5 yellows. Fair enough. Thank you, John. I appreciate it. And that obviously does explain why Casemiro is kind of really highly back to start in game week 11. Konate an option for Liverpool. Good run. Yes, he is. But Matip is going to be back, I think, in 2 weeks. you know, around 1 or 2 weeks from now. So that would concern me a little bit. James for Gay or someone, then upgrade Greenwood to a better forward. Yep. Or even Anderson if you can stretch to it instead of Gay. Honestly, that's fine. Yeah, I would do that. I don't know which forward you're considering, but Skamaka, Martial if he's fit, although he's always a bit of a unreliable player because of his fitness. I'd also say Firmino. I really like him. But yeah, that about covers everything we need to. All the best luck to everyone watching this stream. I hope you do really well this week. And if you haven't already, smash the like button and subscribe if you're new. We are around 200 subscribers away from 16,000. So let's keep on pushing. And thank you to everyone who watched this stream and supported the channel. You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram, DylanRCM. And also check the links in the description below, including the Patreon, the channel memberships. We've got over 60 now. So thank you so much. The growth over the last month or so has been absolutely exceptional with around 4,000 subscribers and a lot of members, let's put it that way. I wish you all the best of luck for Gameweek 11 and the rest of the season. And I hope you enjoy the football as always. That's the most important thing. Don't let FPL get to you too much, although it is difficult sometimes. And I'll see you next time.